All right, good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. It's 7 o'clock. First item is additions, deletions, or any changes to the agenda. Oh, yeah, and I'll mention Tom Ayer will be a little late, but he's coming. And is there any public comment for the meeting? No? And I meant to ask, and there's no reason for executive session.
No.
So the last item doesn't look like we'll need that. So the next item on the agenda is opening of bids for the police cruiser. The Dodge Charger is for sale, minimum price $7,000.
Right, and we didn't receive any bids, so that will take that off the agenda for this
All
evening.
right, so that we'll continue to try to sell it.
Yep, so we'll come back with a new one.
Next item on the agenda,
You have to wait now till the next time.
We're gonna
We'll
ask for bids.
Casper said that if we came, we could hand deliver a bid for
Oh.
the 7,000.
Okay, you've already talked to him?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that okay?
yes, I mean, if you're here and you've already talked to him, then they're the ones that started it, so,
So you have a bid?
Yes.
okay. You want to bring, yeah? you
Sorry.
can-
yeah. Aaron, would you count the cash? That's right.
I just do the 7,000. I could do the 7,000, right? Because I haven't set nobody else bid on it.
Right, we didn't receive any.
I didn't know what to put. I've never bid on a car.
Yep, so we have their minimum bid. That's-
But is there a way to keep it like a surprise? I know Casper said he was gonna like.
You might want to limit what you say right now.
Because
on
we're being
camera.
televised.
This is being televised.
Sure, we'll
We can
keep it
talk about,
surprise.
we can talk about that after, okay?
Yeah, about when you
can
pick it up
communicate
and
with
what
me.
you do.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone follow me.
Yes. What's that?
It's on TV.
Yeah.
It is. But
Not major state networks.
hopefully certain people aren't watching right now, so.
He probably is.
All right, so we have this and you made it in time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So that was a success. Next item is a yearly report, errors and omissions on the grand list. Marie, do you want to give us an update? Yep. To the
Make yourself comfortable.
and there was a spreadsheet, I guess, in our packet that listed the errors and omissions. Maybe you could tell us
Yeah.
why we're doing this.
Okay, sure. So there's the sheet, errors and omissions, and then there's 2 411s also attached,
Oh, what's that?
which one is dated 7/11/2017 up in the left-hand corner, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
other one is 2005, 12/5/2017, sorry. So the above errors were discovered after the grand list was lodged with the clerk in July, and they were corrected. However, state statute requires that they need to be approved by the select board by the 31st of December, I think it is the date, official date. The first 4,
Are the numbers referring to the grand list number on the left? What's the?
that's the PID number, parcel ID number.
Parcel ID, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how we keep all our records in our office, by parcel ID number. So the first 4 are lots that, from a subdivision, and basically what happened is, I guess you could call it double dipping. When we create new lots, they get a parcel ID number. As you can see, these are in order, 11, 12, 13, and 14, the last 2 digits. And they should go into what's called an inactive parcel. And then as each parcel is sold, it becomes active. Most things in our grand list are active.
In other words, if I had some property and I subdivided it, but I haven't actually sold it, it stays as the full property.
Yes.
It's not two separate listings.
Correct. Well, the inactive one, yes, it is listed inactively, but you wouldn't, no one sees that. And, but the value is on the active parcel, which would
Yeah.
have been your original parcel that
Yeah.
you started out with.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by double dipping. So these 4 parcels didn't, when we lodged our grand list and finished reappraisal, they should have been inactive, but they said active and we didn't catch it.
So there's a 5th parcel that was charged that is certainly not the total of all these. but-
Right. It's
So you don't get charged until it's actually sold.
correct. Well, you do.
Well, but
a
it's
different
still
way.
considered one
Yeah.
parcel.
Yes, well, the state, yes. The
Yeah,
state,
it's-
and we're required by the state, if any parcels are contiguous, they all have to be brought together into one value at the bottom.
What happens when one of those parcels gets sold?
That's why we do this. That's why you have these inactive ones. So say you had the first one that says 224. And you sold it, like, that's part of our job during the year, is to look for all of that happening. And then we activate it and put the name on it, who the owner is. It's usually done by the transfer. And then it becomes an active lot, and it gets taken away from, say, if it was Phil's, it would be taken away from Phil's
But not the
primary
full
lot.
224.
No, I don't even know why those values were there. I doubt that those were even
Correct
had
value.
any right. Yeah, they probably weren't correct values
Okay.
because they on the primary parcel,
Yeah.
which is the original one, these lots would show, but they would be discounted. The first one would have the highest value, and then the others would be less. So without, yeah, I don't know where those figures. They might have been the. I don't know,
Because, yeah.
but it was like double dipping.
Okay.
So that was that. And then the next one is a duplicate outbuilding, which was listed twice. An outbuilding is like a shed or a garage or something like that. And the last one was a mistake that I personally made. We get a list from the Veterans Organization each year. It's like a spreadsheet. And on it, it has each veteran's name that qualifies for the $40,000 reduction that our town gives. And I missed this person's name. And the reason that it's only $20,300 is because the total value of his property, it was a trailer in one of the parks. So if they don't have property worth $40,000, they only get the value of what their property is. And so, yes, and he came in to pay his taxes, and he said, oh, I thought I wasn't supposed to have to pay any taxes. And he was very upset. I felt really bad. And when I looked into it, I had missed his name on the spreadsheet. So that's a total reduction of $1,008,500. And really, considering this is a reappraisal year, this is very little. Like, so secondly, current use does not work on the same schedule as assessors and listers. They, thus, many changes are received. I had some changes a week ago. And so that's why I showed you the 411s that you have here, the one that's dated 7/11 and 12/5, just so you can see. I think it's, and if you look at the sheet on the left-hand side, you'll see in a more bold, it says exemptions, halfway
Yeah.
down the sheet on the left. And then you continue down further, and it says current use, 10,313,800. That is a reduction that's taken off. That's a reduction on our grand list, not a plus. Whereas the ones up above where it says exemptions is all plus stuff that we get to tax people on. But in current use, it's a reduction. So then, because current use kept changing things with us from the state level, the reduction went up to $10,433,600 $10,433,600 from $10,313,800. So that also was a minus to our grand list. So the grand list had been $5,983,000. Of course, you realize it's higher than that. It goes to the mill, but this is how the 411s are done. So our reduction, our grand list went down that amount. The current use ones, some of them went up, some of them went down, and when you total minus and plus them, it was a reduction of 119,800. Just so you get a little idea of what we all do. And even though you don't totally understand it, you have to approve it. Or you get to approve it. So that's
So what was the total reduction?
the total reduction of the current use.
Yeah.
is
No,
a-
of the total amount that
Grand list.
the grand list is,
It would be the
can,
$1,008,500 plus the 119,800 change in current use.
so it's the difference between
The
the
first 411,
which was
yeah,
5,
983, 696, 98 on the left,
yep.
and now it's
5.
972, 413, 98.
972 or 975?
972 is what my paper shows, which, is that the one that says final after all parcels certified?
Yeah, mine says 5,975. 465.38. Doesn't yours say that?
No, I think you're,
On the final,
the
that's the
far
last
right
column,
column.
The far right column.
oh,
On the bottom.
no,
You
but
Want to
that's
be in the
not,
other,
yeah, you want to look at the municipal, well, you can look at anything you want.
Oh, okay, got it. I see it.
How
On the
it-
left, the left-hand
Yeah.
column.
Correct,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
So that's that story.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question, not exactly on this, but I think Marie can answer it. Because I was looking at utilities,
Yes,
and is E electric and O is other?
I believe so. That
And-
came up today with Renee.
Yeah, oh, so is she going to talk about that? We'll talk about it
Well, I
later.
know you
She
all
wasn't
want to
quite-
know about what Vermont gas is.
Yes.
And I don't know. This gets sent to us in the spring, like May, April or May. And every utility reports to us. And we take the value that they report to us and we enter it into our grand list. I did ask a couple of questions about that, though, and from Nemrick, because they know more than I do. And Lisa was saying, who works for Nemrick, who's around here a lot, that the part of the gas is tied to the commodities price and what the price of gas is. That's
not
what
what
I
they
was
told
told,
us.
Andrea.
I know. I'm sure it was, yeah.
And you know,
yeah.
we don't, honestly, we
That-
just
that
write the.
makes sense
Does it,
because
Phil?
That's
Yeah.
what the value of their infrastructure is based on what they can make.
Correct.
I mean, it kind of,
And it is their distribution lines, because I did look
But
back.
also their transmission lines. That was
Right.
what they had told us, that we were going to get added tax revenue
Right.
because of the transmission line.
And that could very well be true. I don't,
Yeah.
I just have to
So
take
is
what
there
they
any
report.
difference, though, between last year and this year?
Well, so I showed Renee, not this year, because we don't know what this year's is. We will not know till the spring. But I showed her, I said, on the grand list of this past year, the one that we're talking about here, that went down from the year before. But for me to explain to you why, I don't know. I mean,
we should
always,
get an answer from the Public Service
those are
Department.
things you might want to look
public
into, but
utility,
Yeah.
honestly, I would be very careful to even talk about those figures till you know what they are.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean.
It would be a gift. Hopefully, it's going to be a gift. Do you know what I mean? It's going to go up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, we've never, ever before gone there on that.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Okay.
right.
So suffice to say, the values of those, the utilities, is provided to you by the state, probably through the public
No, by
service
the-
board.
Actually, now
By-
the state's changed all that. They're directly provided to us. They don't even go through the state. Because last year I didn't get them, and I called the state and I said, "Where are my utilities?"
Hey, Tom.
And they said, "Oh, they all report directly to you now."
So you get one from Green Mountain Power, one from the co-op.
Vermont Electric,
uh,
one from Vermont Gas, one from Transco.
What
I think I
about
get
the,
like 5. There's like
cable-
5.
Cable
Yes,
guys?
we get something from cable.
And
Don't they have their
telephone.
online?
Telephone.
Telephone, I don't think is one of those, but I would have to look in my files. Cable is below. See, Andrea, if you look on the grand list, where under total listed real, it says PP Cable,
Oh, okay.
935, 398. I knew
Got
that,
it.
that's in a
Yep.
different location, and I honestly don't know why it's categorized differently, but it's on the top there, so that's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will go up, but they do bounce around. And I don't know why.
All right, are there any more questions? It would be good if you do find out, Marie, how they do it. You could just even send an email through.
I'll try to, or if I
Renee.
go to a seminar where I
Yeah.
have the opportunity to ask, I certainly will, but
But the expectation is the Vermont Gas, with the new infrastructure, that their
go up.
property tax should go up because,
it should go up, Phil, but I would,
yeah, you're not
The
guaranteeing
school
it.
will get the larger portion of
Yes.
the revenue, and then the
Yes.
town gets a percentage of
Right,
that too.
right.
Yep.
Any other questions for Marie? So I think we'd need a motion to approve this official errors and omissions report.
I'll make a motion to accept the errors and omissions from the assessor's office.
I'll second that for you.
Any other comments?
So what happens next after we make the motion, we approve this, and then what
It's
do you
a-
do with it?
it's already happened.
It's sort of already happened, and this is sort of the formality. of-
Really?
That's what we're here for.
That's
Yeah,
what
We have to,
I was
we will
assuming
have
that
to.
was
It's a
the
silly
answer.
little statute that you have to approve it, actually, but it is what it is. You
Yeah.
know, that's what the statute says.
But whatever that is, that if it shows up as some kind of shortfall overall, I mean, we already collected the taxes on that. So we'll have to balance it in next year's tax rate. if we have to.
411s are all, for these 411s that I'm showing you, they're ever changing.
Yeah.
Things happen.
right.
And they change, so you're never working on a, what do you call it, a
The day
static.
it's done, it changes the next day.
You're just working on a
Correct.
snapshot of that moment.
Correct.
All right.
All right, so all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? None opposed, so that motion passed. The next item 5 is a review, continuing our review of the town budget proposals. And we've got 6 items under this. The first is just the capital budget proposed transfers, and we have a report in our packet.
I'd suggest we maybe move that one and let the Carpenter Cars folks who
Sure,
are here
we could
do
do
their presentation first, and then we'll talk about the capital budget after that, and that'll tie into the highway
We could
and planning
could
and
have done
zoning.
the
and-
assessors.
Are we gonna do these?
Oh, oh,
Do you
sorry.
wanna do finish
Assessor,
up with
yes.
me?
Sure,
Because
why
that should
not?
be quick.
I was
Yeah.
already thinking we were, yes,
That's okay.
No,
all
we can
right,
do that.
perfect.
Okay. So, did everybody get the new figures?
Yeah, there's a spreadsheet
Okay.
Yeah,
of
if I need a
this,
Perfect.
little-
and maybe you could.
Okay, so I've, as you probably all heard, I would like to be done with my job at the end of the fiscal
That's
year.
what she always says.
Yes, I've been saying it for years, but this year I'm pretty serious. I am serious. So I been talking with Nemrick, which is the consultants that have helped us out now since 2008, and my recommendation, if I had a choice of what I would like to see happen, I felt that it would be best to have them become our assessor and them do all the work, not just have an office person and have them at the consulting level. And it's been a lot of going around, 'cause that's why my budget changed again. But we came to an agreement this afternoon that they would take on the full responsibility, which would mean coming here 1 day a week for probably 50 weeks out of the year, something like that. It would be flexible, I think. And they would be doing most of the work that I've done. It might cut back a little on customer service, but I don't see that as a problem. So anyway, that would mean eliminating the assessor salary line, assessor employee benefits. I left the assessor supplies at $250, or I had spent $250 the year before, so I put that to $250. Would be eliminating the assessor professional development line, the $750. Tax mapping would stay in. That is what it costs us each year to update our, around that, to update our grand list with what's happened, what changes, like we call it splits, when people have done subdivisions and things like that, Mylars that get filed. And for assessor professional services would be $35,000, no mileage, and that's it, which I am very happy with, and hopefully, you know, I mean, there will be talk down the road, but this is what we came up with today.
So, I mean, I think this looks pretty good.
Yeah, I do too.
And thank Marie for it. Just to clarify, the reappraisal there is money that comes into the town budget from land transactions.
Comes into the town budget from the state.
Yeah.
We get $1 per parcel for yearly updating it. We have about 2,000 parcels, rounding it off. So we get, it's always been the policy in this town, as long as I've been involved, to not touch that dollar and just put it in our reappraisal budget. And then I think we either get $6 or $7 per parcel to go towards reappraisal, and
Yeah.
they want you to not spend and save it till you
Yeah.
have another reappraisal. So,
So it looks like we budgeted 78, but it ended up costing 73.
Right, but
For this recent reappraisal.
right, but I will tell you that there has been some work that Lisa, who works for NIMRIC, has been doing for me, because we're still not done. We're still working on files, and there will be a bill coming in that can be paid out of that reappraisal, so that possibly could change. Yeah, and another thing that I was going to mention that I forgot to, back to the contract with the with NEMRIC, is that they're thinking, because we'd started with a higher price, but today the conversation was, which we've had it off and on, is getting our records online. And he feels that if we could do that, we could, if they could do that, we could be more efficient, and that would cost, you know, that's why we got this down to 35,000.
But isn't that going to take some work to get it
I
on there?
I think for them it won't be a great deal of work, because they are a big part of their work is IT work.
Yeah.
Which they do. They support the CAMA system. In fact, I think they own it now, not the state. So they have lots of software engineers working for them, several.
But would that be a separate contract?
No, I think that he thinks that he can do
Oh,
that
okay.
in this,
Okay.
yep.
And it's not uncommon for NIMRIC to be doing this service. They do it in Richmond.
They do it in Richmond. They have been doing Richmond now for a few years, 2 or 3, I want to say. They are the assessor over there. And Lisa, who comes here, goes there 1 day a week and does their work, and that's worked out pretty well. I keep asking her, how's it going? How do you think it's working? Because I was...
What about, sorry, can I ask?
No,
Yes,
sure.
please.
So what I'm wondering is, like, what's the communication between NIMRIC and the town administrator or the select board
It
or?
would have to be probably with Renee, I would
Yeah,
guess. or
but
our-
yeah, how do we
Well-
make that be,
We can ask for, when we get to the contract, I mean, we haven't signed a contract.
Right.
Well, you guys will, you folks will sign the contract, not I. When we get to that point, we can certainly discuss all those things. Who they would report to, but I would imagine it would be the
Because maybe
town
there's some sort of
administrator.
report that they could do,
I
electronic, you know,
imagine
via,
they-
that could be
Possibly, yeah.
included.
I mean,
it's so easy to just talk to you and ask you questions, so.
correct. But they'll do, they won't be here as much as you see me, but I think
Right.
they'll do a good job. I really feel very confident with them, and, we can work all those things out. I was just trying to get them to commit, number one, which I feel I got today. Well, I sort of got it before, but a different level, a little higher level today. And come up with, a cost.
Right.
So that we could do a budget. I said,
Right. So is this something that we would probably want to have a contract before town meeting? So we know
I don't
what?
think you'll get it before town meeting, because
But we
I'm
can
going
have
away
some
for-
kind of agreement with them, so we,
Possibly, I can talk with them if you'd
Yeah, I mean, it
like.
would probably be good to have something as
I
clear as
have their
possible.
other contracts, and I don't think it will be a lot different, but
Okay.
yeah, I can try, but I'm gonna be gone for a month, starting February 8th, so I won't even be here for town meeting.
And this won't really kick in until July.
Till
so
July.
Right,
have
but we
some
want to
time
make sure
do
we
it.
have the
We
right
wanna
number.
Make sure we get
budget.
a
Yeah.
good number for the budget, yeah.
I do feel confident about the number.
Okay.
July 1st, correct?
Um,
Your goal.
that was, yeah,
goals.
unless there's some stuff hanging out there.
2015.
Yeah, when I took this job, was a lister back to 1990.
Sure.
But when Holly left, I was gonna leave then too, but then
Yeah,
I thought,
remember that.
no, I shouldn't do that. I'll do this for 2 or 3 years, and now it's been almost 10.
I would say she left a
Yeah.
while ago.
But yeah, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
great, but I think it's time for me to be done. But I really want to feel that the town is left in qualified hands. Because I think they did a great job on the reappraisal.
But we still, when we have to go to reappraisal,
Then you'd have to hire either them or somebody else at a separate
because
contract.
we haven't had them do the reappraisal,
Yeah,
have we?
they did our reappraisal.
Oh, they did,
Yeah,
so-
But
Yeah.
somebody else used to do it, right?
Michael Bailey.
Yes,
Right, but in
okay.
2008,
Okay.
before Holly left, we switched to what was called APAS.
Yes.
And that's Ed Clodfelter, and he sold his company to
Oh,
NEMRIC during this
okay.
period that we've
Got
been
it.
with them.
Okay,
So they've been our support person coming here every year.
okay.
And then we hired them to do our reappraisal.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really familiar with everything.
Right.
With the town of Hinesburg, which is a plus. I think.
Paul, did you?
If I may,
Just identify yourself.
Paul Lamberson.
Oh, and
You need to
sorry,
come to the mic.
Sorry.
Paul Lamberson. And the question has to do with, I'm fascinated and intrigued by what I'm hearing. I don't want to support it. Is it a move toward putting the grand list online? And if so, that's different, and I just hope that gets some attention. I know other towns do it. I snoop on other town grand lists all the time. But it'll be new territory for Hinesburg residents, and I think we need to address that.
What, do you?
It's public
what-
information.
It's already, we've sent it out in a newsprint.
It's different than the internet. You just have to acknowledge, when I can pop on the internet and go to towns anywhere in the United States and find grand lists, that's very different than getting the newsprint copy in my mailbox in Hinesburg every reappraisal 10 years out. So I'm all for it, but I just want to acknowledge
Okay.
it's very
Fair
different.
enough, yeah.
Okay,
So I'll just sort of acknowledge the hard work that Marie does. I think part of the reason she hasn't retired now is she wants to make sure everything's done well. And the fact that you're making this recommendation at least sits pretty well with me. And, if a year down the road or 2 years down the road, we decide it's not right, we always can go back to hiring somebody to do the appraisals. And, probably what's going to make it work or not work is the person that NIMRIC sends. And, you know, it sounds like we know the person that we expect will be here and competent and hopefully service-minded and be able to help townspeople when they have questions about appraisal.
And, thank you. And I did mention to him that, that, you know, the contract perhaps could be written, if you all agree, you know, that on a year-to-year basis or something like that, where it could be reevaluated by the select board or Renee, and, or by them if they feel they needed to, wasn't working for them. You know, there's nothing, I don't, and I did mention that to him and he didn't seem to act surprised. I think we were on a year-to-year contract before, we just never renewed it every year. So yes, and you know, it will be an experiment, but I really feel confident that it could work out well.
Okay. Any more questions? Yes, Alex.
Just a comment that this is a policy change, not just a budget change, and so because you haven't negotiated this yet, Marie's just done the cost estimating and that, and there's more conversation to have. As far as the budget goes, you may want to err on the conservative side and budget a little more, so that should this blow up and you do in fact need to hire an assessor, you have enough money to do the current system. It doesn't hurt for 1 year to give yourself a cushion, rather than assume that things are going to happen before contracts are written and everything is actually put to bed.
Good point.
And you're not talking a big differential, it's like a couple $1,000.
Right. Yeah, Marie just got this information this
Yeah.
afternoon, so we just got it shortly before the meeting.
Yeah,
Wanted
I
to
had-
put those numbers so the
I
board
had-
could see that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had great hopes that this was going to be in better shape, that I had all this information before. That was why I hadn't gotten back to you, Phil, because I just didn't have a lot to say. For some reason, it fell together today, and so, yeah, all good points.
All right.
Any other questions?
Well, I want to reiterate your gratitude to Marie for working so hard and doing so well for so many years, and then working so hard to leave us in good shape.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we'll jump into the Carpenter Karst Library budget.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
All right. You guys can bring 2 chairs up here at the table if you want.
And again, maybe introduce yourselves.
Paul Lamberson, treasurer of the board.
Sarah Donegan, Director of the Carpenter Karst Library.
And before handing out some financials, and you have what we've submitted for you and what we hope will go in the town report, but I also brought our standard QuickBooks accounting reports from the fiscal year that ended on June 30th. And I want to address some questions that have always been present, in my mind at least, and that I hear from you folks about our reserves. And we have an endowment with the Vermont Community Foundation, and the source of funds for that endowment are primarily twofold. Art Garino estate from X number of years ago left a sizable gift to the library. That originally went to Vermont Community Foundation and to the National Bank of Middlebury to just kind of move around. We consolidated that for simplicity, for market returns, et cetera. You'll see some changes in our financial statements on how that change reflected. And then also the other source of money in the endowment is the sale of the old building right here in the village. Our policy with that endowment is to use the distribution every year and not touch the corpus, the capital, et cetera. We touch the earnings, the market earnings, and the Vermont Community Foundation has a sophisticated formula of past performance. I think it's 5 years average trailing performance, things like that. In general, we will take that distribution every year. We've automated that. We have forgotten to take it now and then. It's now automated. We'll get it every year. The other source of what I'll call more cash reserves is surplus from our operating budget. And as I compare that to a school board where we have to vote as taxpayers, will we draw some of our reserve to apply to the next year's budget? We don't have that process as a 501c3. But I know that's raised some questions in the past. What do you do with extra money? Do you have any extra money, et cetera? And what you'll see there, but also here are the QuickBook financials, balance sheet on, here you go, Marie. I'm Andrea. We plan to use some of our cash reserves that, we closed the books on FY17 with a surplus. We had a very generous donation from the Polly Quinn estate, among other successes. And because we closed the year with a, $52,000 in our Merchants Bank checking account, that's more than enough to be drawn down. And so that's what we're proposing to do for FY19. And there are a lot of numbers up there, and they're in pretty small font. And I know not everyone picks it up right away, but we're saying zero change to what we're asking from the town. Okay? What you'll see in the QuickBooks financial that I just handed out, it's our income statement year to year on one side and our balance sheet year to year on the other side. It's also been a goal of mine, both as the treasurer and a community member.
If you want.
Oh boy, oh boy, thank you. To make sure our QuickBook numbers match what we report anywhere to anybody. And that has not always been in the past, and we've really struggled to close that gap between cash accounting and accrual accounting and stuff like that. That's why you'll see I actually acknowledge depreciation there for the first time in a town report, just so I can have a bottom line number that goes across to our audited, not, I shouldn't say audited, our CPA prepared financial statements. The other thing that is changing a little bit is and I hear a history is that the select board actually encouraged it at one point. We want to set aside some money every year for deferred maintenance. We want to build an account, and that is showing up as our Merchants Bank savings account on our balance sheet. At the end of FY17, we had $18,812 in it. We want to put money into that deferred maintenance account every year, and meanwhile, our CPA, great guy who's worked for the library ever since a previous CPA passed away years ago, he's totally on board with the thinking, but he won't set up a deferred maintenance account as an asset. He said this is not big enough. It's not worth it to him to keep track of it. So what we do when we put in a repair and maintenance expectation and a deferred maintenance allocation, he puts it all into our repairs and maintenance budget line as an expense. Then we come in way below it, and the result is we have money sitting there in our. Meanwhile, here in Hinesburg, what we do is every quarter when we get a check from the town, we immediately put a quarter of our annual deferred maintenance allocation right off into deferred maintenance, and are building that account. We've taken care of a parking lot a few years ago. We feel like the roof's in good shape. We have an engineer's schedule of expectations on what we should be addressing. We haven't really created the trigger point on, it's a $30,000 parking lot. Oh, we know what to do. Go get the money from deferred maintenance. When Sarah has some HVAC maintenance that adds up incrementally, we haven't really figured out what to do. However, if you look at that $52,000 and what I'll just call, working capital excess on our balance sheet plus another 18, we had $71,000 on hand at the end of FY17. Again, giving us the confidence to draw down, $14,835 of it in this proposed budget. Our new director is getting great results. We're confident that we're might be adding to that cash reserve this year. And nobody has a crystal ball on who dies. The fact that Polly Quinn died and left us a generous donation is very nice.
That's why we had that 50.
Part of why we have
that to begin with.
And it could even be argued that, maybe we should have put the Polly Quinn money off to Vermont Community Foundation, but we did not. And we're taxpayers, and we want to give ourselves a break as well. So that's why the 0%, the level funding request.
And you can always put more money into, it doesn't have to be a bequest that goes to the Vermont
Of course.
community. You could put any, yeah.
Right.
And
There's even a debate on whether we should, like I said, we've automated our use of the distribution from VCF.
Yep.
oh my gosh, since we have a little bit of cash sitting at Merchants Bank or Community Bank, VCF should be paying a higher rate. Maybe we should delay one of our distributions one of these years. But you know what? Let's just keep some things automated for the time being. We're making great progress on streamlining some reporting, and yeah.
You know, what you're calling deferred maintenance, you know, also could be, you know, we're trying to get better at our capital budgeting. And so that we're putting money away for those things that we know we're going to need to buy or we're going to need to do in terms of maintenance. And so I'm just wondering whether you also are considering not just the maintenance of the existing building, but what possibilities you might want to be doing that you would be having in what would be for capital expenditures. I mean, you don't have to answer that, but just.
It sounds great, Andrea.
Right.
Okay.
But we don't. No, we're not.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
and only because, you know, no one's thinking about another building. Maybe.
Some people are thinking about
Oh, some people might. Maybe, you know, I think the closest thing that could even enter that realm of possibility, and just imagine is maybe moving CVU out of the rental space.
Yeah.
And
that would be the next.
that'd be the next logical
Yeah, okay.
acquisition of space.
Yeah.
And it's not on the radar screen as well. And we've raised the rent to CVU.
I was thinking if you'd ever put the bookmobile back on the road or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
So that could be a capital.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the beauty, I think it's to be argued in the CPA's favor that the beauty of the way we're handling it, look, it's just a dedicated savings account.
Yes.
The IRS hasn't restricted it, you know, no accounting standards have restricted it. It's just we're making sure some extra money's sitting there, and we think we know what we want to use it for, but we have complete flexibility as well.
Any other questions?
And it's great, you didn't mention that you're going to expand almost an
hours,
additional
yeah.
10 hours a week.
Additional 8 hours a week.
Yeah, I
Yep.
said almost 10. I couldn't do the math fast enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 8 hours a week. So we'll have, the plan is that we'll have much more predictable scheduling.
And that's more than one person to be
It
open.
is, yes.
usually
We have at
two
least two
people.
staff members in the building
Yeah.
when we're open. Yeah.
We had an FTE conversation because that was a question in years past, and there wasn't enough confidence in how we've been reporting the FTE, whether we look at some benefits, how benefits have been accounted for on one line versus other line, to give a report that we'd feel confident on. So maybe a year from now, when we have a little more history reporting.
Does any income come from a state level agency?
Not a lot. We get a few grants. Our courier system that delivers and takes our interlibrary loans
Yeah.
is funded through the state a little bit. But yeah, Vermont's really unique in the sense that we don't have a lot of funding from the libraries.
Yeah.
From the state.
I mean, there is a state library service, but
There
they
is.
don't.
Yeah.
They're not funding anything necessarily.
No, we get like a few small grants. Like
Yeah.
that courier one is, I can't remember off the top of my head, but when we get like a few other like $100 ones, but I would say combined we really don't. You know, it's under $2,000 what we would get from the state.
Do they set certain standards and?
Yep.
Or,
Yeah. They do like help a lot with like technical stuff, and we can call and help. And there's some sharing of materials and things like that.
And how about
But in
the
terms of
two?
funding,
There's the
not a
state
lot.
and the Vermont Library Association, right? There are two. I mean,
The
there's
VLA, yeah, that's an organization that does like
just one more
continuing education,
trade group.
and things like that. Yeah.
Not a state thing, just a
statewide membership.
statewide membership, but just industry group.
Yeah.
More or less.
Right.
Yeah.
So the town supports the library with a budget, and you know, from my experience, and you know, I'd say over the last 20 years, it's easily doubled, but so have the services and all that. It's certainly, from again my opinion, well supported by town people. I mean, I can't recall much conversation at town meeting about the budget other than being supportive. Is there anything else the library needs from the town besides, budgetary support? And so I give one example. There really isn't a good sidewalk that gets from here to there.
Right.
That could be something that, hopefully is in the works at some point.
Yep.
But is there anything else that the town,
I don't know. I'm glad you're talking sidewalk. There's this mysterious patch of grass where the mowing stops, and I don't know who's responsible for it.
That's true.
But it stops
Yeah.
short around like the bank parking lot, and then there's
Yep.
this weed patch
There's
that
a
comes up,
huge
and
weed
and every now and then I hit it with my
whatever.
lawnmower, but I don't know if that's town or not. That road's little bit of a mystery to me.
Yeah,
Maybe-
you could, well, that's not what,
Yeah.
that's what you could do for us. Is No, is clear up the
mystery?
mystery of the whole road association, how that all gets.
No, I think
Because
Phil's
that is
offer
a
was
private
to us,
road.
not
Yeah.
from us.
that's a private road
Yeah.
from,
Yeah, I mean, snow plowing has always kind of been a gray area. It seems like we're working with the food shelf this year, and we're sharing a service because it seems like historically the town's just been too busy to get to us before we open. But then again, they were there this last snowstorm, so it's like we kind of don't always know when they're coming, which is it's fine. But I don't. Yeah, that's something. It's something good to think about.
And just certainly there's the town as represented by the select board, and then their town residents. And I just want to point out, Sarah did a wonderful job with Giving Tuesday. Said, hey, everybody, don't forget Giving Tuesday. And had a nice reply to that.
Really nice response.
And one reply was our first monthly donor, sustaining donor. And I think there'll be a few more very soon. So that reminder, and as a board member, I've gone off to the conference for boards and friends, etc. The fact that we're a 501c3 creates some opportunities for us that just some nice things. We can carry a reserve without having a friends group. We can go out and actively fundraise and not have to have a friends group again. So I'm really happy the way things are set up. And I believe that based on the both program participation and then a lot of those participants are turning into donors, which is we're not there's no quid pro quo, there's no user fee expectation,
Right.
but there seems to be a
That's
little
how
bit
we
of a
keep it.
user fee giving back, and it's really great to see. Speaks well of the town. It speaks well of the town, not just the select board town part.
I had a question actually about the budget items for the programs, adult and youth. Are those for materials for those? Because the other would be covered under wages and salaries?
Right. Yeah. So it's hiring performers,
Yeah.
hiring, authors, and getting snacks for programs, things like that. So yeah, our programming wages are under the wages and salaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great
materials.
to celebrate the anniversary of being up there too.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah.
okay. Anything else?
You've done a really nice job.
Yeah.
On the budget and
Yeah.
Yeah.
responding to the,
Yeah, and it's great to see everything, to really understand the way that the 501c3 works and your investments and how they're.
Well, it's nice to be able to touch this document throughout the fiscal year as
Yeah.
well and
Yeah.
say what we say we're going to do, which is built into our QuickBooks by then. But in narrative conversations, what we say, oh, it's right there with nothing. Oh, don't forget we didn't include this and didn't include that. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sarah.
Oh yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Special delivery.
What? No quid pro
The
quo,
purse.
they said, yeah. All right.
My other one was late.
So I guess we have a choice here, and maybe the winner's Alex. I don't know.
in the
Next.
order we have, going to capital and then we have Mike.
Mike?
Yep.
And, really? And not
You
in
might
mine.
have looked at an original draft. You're looking
Oh,
at a
okay.
draft, you're not
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at the actual.
Okay. So Mike's next?
pages. Yep.
All right. And we have a little summary.
Andrea,
What's that?
did you get everything from Missy?
I did, but I wasn't gonna talk about that tonight.
Oh, okay.
I mean, unless you wanted to.
Nope.
So there's a little summary of just the general increases. And you'll see that the bulk of the increases come from the capital transfers.
I'm looking for my spreadsheet here.
Mike, I'll let you go through the lines or talk about the increases and what's really inside them.
So our professional services, I've increased it, one to cover the general permit, if that comes to be next year, which I was told it was gonna be in the vicinity of $2,000. And then another 1,000 for more engineering work that we had Tyler doing.
Has Tyler been the one you've pretty much been using lately?
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Yep. The other one was just one more load of chloride for dust control. That's a weather dependent thing, so, but last year we were over a little, I mean, $500, but one more load would go a long way.
How's the price of this been? Has it been
Well-
pretty stable or is it going up?
No, it went down last year by 15 cents or something, and it was an undermined deal, so we got a feeling it's going back up next year. So, the $7,000 is for replacing the guardrails up at the triangle at Richmond Road, Mechanicsville intersection.
That's great.
The wooden guardrail.
It'll look good.
That's a standard now? Or-
Well, that's what I asked to get a price on.
Okay,
And said, I mean, I don't think we want to galvanize one around there.
Right, right.
So, it'll be pressure treated and installed, not by me.
Back to calcium chloride for a moment. You know how periodically we hear in the news that salt is running low and it's hard to get? Does calcium chloride ever go in that category of news?
Yes
that-
and no, sometimes. It's more of a demand thing. Just everybody wants it at the same time.
Hasn't rained in a while,
Right.
then everybody wants it and it's
Yep.
harder to get. Yeah. You get it from same place or same
There's
distributor?
2 or 3 different ones that we deal with.
Yeah.
Well, mostly 2 of them, but
Yeah.
they're usually, we call and they bring a load the next day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they can carry 4,500 gallons, we can only store 7,000,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Is that the same as when the new garage is online? Because it's the tanks you have and
The
it'll
tanks
just be
we
the
have,
same
right.
tanks, you just
Yep.
move them, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
The next thing is the signs, I added $2,000, we need to replace our road working signs. We've had those for
so
ever.
when you're working in the
Our
road-
work zone
Yeah.
signs, yep. So some of them are in bad shape. We've pieced them together. We've had piles of them that we've kept just so we could piece them together, so. But those are a safety thing. And that'd be just for next year, and then that money comes back out. And it's the same thing with the guardrails. And the only other thing, the 15,000 to replace our tanker.
Yeah, I could see that.
Transfers. So that's included in the capital improvement plan FY19 expenditure summary. So if you can look at the bottom of that, the total for capital
Tanker.
transfer is $426,109 and change. And the tanker, we're estimating purchasing a used tanker for
used
maybe
one.
around 30,000, so have an FY19 transfer of 15,000, and then FY20 would do another 15,000, which I haven't
You
put
can
in
get
there.
2 more
It's
years
not
out
on
of the
there.
one you have now.
We hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, so
I
this
don't think
would
it-
be, this would be just putting it aside for the following year.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe it would be helpful for me, I mean, I'm looking at the capital improvement plan, and there, you know, you've got maybe 5 or 6 items, and it might be good just to kind of go over them, this is what it is, or, you know.
That's why I have I have a summary pulled up right now, so it shows the highway things. I mean, is that what you're meaning?
Yeah.
Yep. So if you look at all the highway, and then if you look down at the bottom, left-hand box, it shows the total, for the FY19 transfer for highway by department.
Yep.
So if you want to go through, Mike, those things listed in highway for your,
Well, we got the paving,
yeah.
Which is the same amount each year, but then it's offset by, hopefully,
Grants.
state grants.
Yeah, in addition to.
It's
Yeah.
not offset.
It's not
Oh, that's
offset,
right,
it's
you're right,
addition
in
to.
addition to,
Addition.
sorry.
To it.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we did this year, yeah.
Right.
And then we get the gravel roads projects, that's more for our crushed gravel. To have somebody come in and crush our gravel, and I had added 5,000 last year, was it? We saw the 25 and then it went to 30,
Yep, so I think it was.
just for the riprap and stone that we have to use more and more of now,
Yeah,
so
a
we
different-
increased that.
Different size stone that you're using.
Well, the
for
rock
yeah.
for ditching.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So it includes both the screening of our gravel and
And
purchasing
the larger
larger
stone. Right.
material.
culvert replacements, that's just annual culvert replacements around town. That's driveway culverts, some under the roads and things like that.
And you have a plan, like, kind of the ones you expect you'll do next
The
year?
ones that we know are bad, yeah.
Yeah.
We
The
go
culvert
around.
inventory.
And now that the inventory's done, it'll
Yeah.
make it a little easier.
Oh, right, that's
Right.
right, we had a
Yeah.
report.
Culvert inventory,
Yep.
yeah. Then there's, the rest of it, I think, is just the trucks and all the equipment.
Yep.
The Mac, I mean, we got a number of years on that, the Freightliners.
Yeah, so the Mac,
The only one that's not, did you take the 2010 International out?
Well, it's not shown on this because it's not
Okay.
a transfer for this year,
Right, we're gonna push that one out
But if-
anyways, a couple of more years.
but they can see it on their other page.
Oh,
It's in
right.
your Dropbox.
it says, it's pushed out, the replacement, I guess, would be 2020,
Yeah.
so,
That's what
Possibly
it's supposed to
further.
be. We're hoping to put it out further.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's
Because that's
good.
the one that's not getting used.
Right, yep.
And then the next one is the 2014 Mac, which has this year and next year for payment. Well, this budget and next budget.
Right.
That's why I'm looking at this plan that shows it carried out.
One of the, it seems like what we talked about is that there's just money in there in the capital budget for every truck every year. You know, kind of so that we're
Because
putting a
it's a
little bit
lease.
in and, well, not only is it a lease, but if we want to get ahead of needing a lease or a loan and be able to purchase them outright, then if
We won't get it there this way.
we won't get
Yeah,
there
no.
this way.
Yeah.
We,
No.
if we started to put money in for everything a little bit in every year for each item that we know we're going to replace. That's a shift in our
Right.
policy, but we might want to think about that.
And yeah, I mean, I think we'd all agree that would be good to do. But looking at the budget this year and just looking at the capital increase this year, it's going to be, that's a really hard one to do.
I don't know how we'll get there though, when it won't be hard.
Right. Other than, maybe you do something like you're already saying, hey, we're going to push out this 2010 international year. And then that'd be the year you'd say, well, let's
Still put money
put
in.
money in.
So we could do that. I mean, that's certainly something we could do and have.
I think we should try to work towards that. So wherever we can.
Are we talking about getting a smaller vehicle for plowing as well? At all? No?
Not yet.
No, but we will eventually, probably. How many years off are we for that?
When the next big development comes out.
Well, that's also one thing that I noticed was that our 10-year paving
That's not in there.
does not include Thistle
Right.
Hill or
Yeah.
Creekside.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It
as we,
doesn't really include, I mean, you kind of start talking about it with Commerce Street.
so when we think we're getting ahead a little bit, in fact, actually, we're just staying even because we're adding.
So then the next two trucks, you have the 2017 and 2015 Freightliners. And 2015 goes through fiscal year 2000, what is that, 2021?
That's just the payments, isn't it?
So 16.
It's 16.
Mine says 15.
Yeah, I think what they had before in there was incorrect
Okay.
numbers, so I
So
just
it's
adjust them to the right
2016, sorry.
model year of the vehicle.
And then the 1 ton and the loader starts this year.
Yeah, so last year you guys had put 15,000 in for the 1 ton. And so that would takes care of that first year payment for FY19. So we'll take that from the capital reserves. And the first payment is actually $14,855.55.
And that's the one with the little crane on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice
Snow
setup.
plow, yeah, plow and crane.
And then the tanker, you're thinking 2 years at 15? That's enough
Yeah, I
for
mean, that's what I've been seeing some tankers go for.
Yeah.
30,000 and
It's a used,
it's a
Yeah,
used
yeah,
truck,
yeah,
yeah.
so he has his eye on old,
Yeah.
when other towns bring their fire department.
Need a police cruiser?
No, I don't need a police cruiser. And there's some stuff, I just saw some emails, there's some military stuff coming back again, so maybe a truck will come back there. That's where we got this one.
Any other questions, or Andrea, you had this?
Yeah,
Budget,
Mike and
so-
I and Maria, we all sat down and I think one of the things that Mike does that's really helps too with the longevity of the trucks is that he paints them, keeps them painted up. And I think it's, I don't know, I had something like $100,000 in there, but like $10,000 a year or something to paint
For
them.
paint? No.
Oh, over
No,
10
we're-
years.
10
No?
years, I haven't painted a truck in a long time.
Oh.
It's just the maintenance on them, we stay on it.
Okay, yeah.
But there's 2010, we're gonna paint it.
Oh, okay.
We're hoping come spring, we have the money left in the maintenance to have it painted.
Okay.
To carry it out the extra couple of years.
Okay. And the other thing is that, well, I basically really recognizing that our crew does a fantastic job. There's 3 of them. We have 4 trucks that could be out plowing, and we're doing it with 3 people, and I'm concerned about burnout and safety, so we have budgeted for 4 people. And maybe as we go through, we can be thinking of we might need to think of other ways of getting support for the crew at these critical times. Just kind of looking at the numbers, the amount of hours that were put in on an average over the last 3 years when we were working with an undersized crew, and whether we just can start thinking some different ways about it, whether it's subcontracting, whether it's hiring somebody on an as-needed basis, what we can afford to pay. But just maybe if we can all be thinking outside the box of other ways we can help the 3 of them out and make sure that everybody stays safe and the roads are looking really good. The other thing that's changed, I guess, Mike, didn't really mention, or maybe everybody knew that already, was that we're switching back to using salt and sand, or salt and not the slurry.
Oh, not the liquid.
Oh, yeah, but that was just chloride that we were using. So that was just one load of chloride every winter that was being sprayed on the salt as we're putting it down. But we can get the pre-treated stuff now. It's more money, but in the end, it kind of works out to be the same as buying the equipment and over the year, 10-year period and everything else. So we're just not going to use it.
We're not going to use what?
The liquid.
The liquid,
The
right.
liquid,
Which
right.
That's that
I have gotten
pre-
positive feedback from people saying they're glad we're not going to use the liquid.
That's the pre-treat stuff.
The liquid though is what liquid is the positive feedback that we're
Well,
not
that's-
using?
That's what I don't
Because
quite
the-
understand, and maybe
There's
you
a
could
difference
explain
between what
that.
we were using on the chloride that we were spraying it on the salt as we put it down. The brine that I think is what everybody complained about is still, that's what got sprayed on the road before a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did that a couple of times. And for us to go around town, it took about 1,800 gallons to cover all the paved roads in town, which was only about 2 tons of salt. So when we go out and put dry material down off the spinner, that's about 7 tons. So we were putting down less material with that. But the problem is it's wet and it takes a while for the water to evaporate and dry off. And I think that's what everybody was all up in arms about.
But that's a significant.
Yeah,
less,
it's a big difference.
You know, in
I
salt.
mean, it was just, it kept the snow from sticking to the road.
Yeah.
It helped plow it off easier. We were still out putting 7 tons down, or maybe less, but it jump-started everything for us. So, I know, it was
And are you
yes
not
and no.
doing that now because you don't have the person power to get it
No,
done?
we don't have a winner anymore.
Okay.
You know, it seems like last few times we did it, where they called for, 1 to 3 inches of snow, we said, go out and spray it. We'll make it up, spray it, and it would rain and wash it off. So that's
Waste of your time,
right. Yep.
among other things.
So we stopped doing it. So. And then we still have the tanks on 2 of the, well, only one now, one of the other trucks, so that when we have this ice on the paved roads or on the gravel roads, where we can spray something on the sand to help the sand stick to the ice. So that's been a big help, where we're not sanding 3 and 4 times a day. When we have these ice storms, they can go out and sand, and the sand burns in a little bit and stays there. So it's either that or we got to mix salt in. So
And, I assume you're constantly talking to all the other guys and
Oh, yeah.
what people
Yeah.
are doing and trying different things
Yep.
and trying to measure whether they work.
Yep.
I had a couple of observations on the budget that I'll just sort of put out there. There's 3 lines here: vehicle blades, vehicle R&M, that must be maintenance, I guess.
yep.
Rework and maintenance, and then fuel. And they just seem, I don't, I'm not trying to cut the budget so that we don't make the budget, but it seems like they're all gone up, but yet, at least from, I wonder if maybe we're being a little too conservative. Just so, the blades is at 16,000, and the last year of data you used about, less, almost a little over 10. Mm-hmm. But are you expecting
And
you'll use more this year?
We
or-
increased it because there's an increase in the price of the blades.
Okay.
So, and that covers our snowplow blades, the grader blades, our bits for the grader, mower blades, all those things that are
Okay.
used out on the road.
That get used, consumed. And then vehicle,
The vehicle, the repair and maintenance, $30,000. That's repairing and maintenance on $1 million worth of equipment. And I don't know if if yours shows the breakdown, because prior to this year, Missy and I decided to change it. We've combined the operator supplies and maintenance, so now it's be just 37,000. But in our monthly expenditure reports, it's broken down to each vehicle and what I put into
Yeah.
each vehicle. But
So they've done.
It
it
ends
on
up
that
with
side of
20
the
extra
Yes,
line items.
yeah. And then the fuel says 48 for this year, but the previous
Well,
year
fuel
was
went down,
34, yeah.
And, we're
We
only
don't-
running 3
yeah.
trucks again. So,
But,
Okay.
yeah,
when fuel goes back up, that's what happened is we were under, and going over budget all the time, and fuel was going up there, it was over $4 a gallon a couple of years ago. Now that it's back down, but how long does it stay there?
but that was one of the things that I'd asked previously was to track the number of gallons that we use or the number of hours, because then we can see whether the difference is in the cost of the fuel or in the amount of miles and the amount of times that you're going out, because both of those can change a lot. I know
It
in a
depends on
winter.
what we're doing too.
Right. But
You drive your car around town, all around Hinesburg, and how much does it cost you? Put the car in first gear and hold it to the floor and drive all around town. You're gonna burn a lot more fuel, and that's what happens when we're plowing.
right, well, that's
You know,
what I
right.
understand, but that's why I think if we understood how many hours you were using it or how many miles, that if you were keeping track of that average,
we do.
then
Yeah.
you could be multiplying that by the cost of fuel for that year,
Yeah.
as opposed to just always looking at the dollars, because you just said it changes all the time. So if we want a more accurate number, if we're tracking it based on the hours or the miles, and multiply it out.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a couple variables, though. You don't know how much it's going to snow. How many miles do you put on in like a 6-inch snowfall? I mean,
On this,
if you were to just sort of add them all up, you
Well,
get
they're-
up at 3 in the morning and you plow
they're
till
all- it's all broken
11.
up. To go around town once on all the paved roads, from door to door, from when I pull out of the shop till I get back, is 66 miles. And then the other 2 trucks are between 30 and 32 miles for them to go around town and sand everything.
Okay.
So,
So it's
actually more, because
66
it's
miles that you're doing on the
paved-
paved roads.
right.
And then there's another 60-some
well,
miles combined.
plus, because once we put the 4th truck on there, it takes up some of those miles. So,
But basically like 130 miles.
Months.
To plow
To
around
plow
once.
go around once.
But I imagine most storms you do
More
more
than
than
once.
once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You do some quick things maybe in the morning and then
Right.
then you go, yeah.
Yep.
And then Aaron's driveway, the last.
We fill his driveway.
Everyone's.
That's where we put it all.
Then everyone's road last.
Right downhill.
Yeah.
Well, I just bring up those items just to say, like I said, I don't want it to be short. I want you to put in enough there, but not be so conservative that the budget's more than it needs to be. Any other comments on highway?
I was looking for ways the budget will change in the coming couple of years.
With the new highway
Yeah.
garage? That's a good question.
Yeah.
So utilities probably go up a little bit. It's a little
They might,
bigger.
there was another one I thought I kept, maybe it was repair and maintenance, right? I kept the $1,000 in there
Right on the building.
For the building
repair.
itself,
on the building
yeah.
repairs, because that's gonna be, we're gonna hire somebody to pump out the water oil, separate things, so it's time consuming for us. And we're doing it 2 and 3 times a year. So,
But maybe, we've talked, I think, before with the new garage and some space, maybe better maintenance, being able to do maintenance more efficiently and maybe maintain the vehicles a little easier.
Imagine there'll be some amount of building itself maintenance. I mean, right now you kind of just bolts and
$1,000
screwdrivers and you just kind of get whatever done because it doesn't matter so much, but it'll matter on the new building. A door.
$1,000 builds a new town garage, just like the one you have now.
Exactly. Fixing a door takes on a whole new,
right,
Well, hopefully the first year it'll all be under warranty,
it's all under
Right.
warranty, right?
Yeah.
but we should,
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
paying
that kinda-
attention to that.
yeah, because there's probably virtually no building maintenance line item now.
Well, there has been for the
Yeah.
Well, there
building.
has been.
Yeah, but I
for
mean, it's,
the building we're in.
I mean, we were talking about garage doors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have garage doors on our current building, so.
Yeah. Well, I think we were talking about replacing them, and then we said, no, we're gonna.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's not
Keep
next
using
year. I
the
mean,
canvas
Yeah.
cover.
you know, we got one door that's been on here, 2 doors that are over 30 years,
Yeah.
so we keep fixing them.
And I guess that's my question is will you be able to continue to just keep fixing things, or will does the scope of this new building take on another whole dimension of?
I don't like the way you said you were gonna fix these.
Well, that's my point, is you wouldn't.
How much longer you think I'm gonna do this?
Forever.
Yeah, no.
Well, I think you're raising a good point,
Yeah.
Aaron, but I think that,
I think once you, I mean, it's just
Well, it-
no different than a new house. How do you know what your
Yeah,
expenses are
right.
gonna be?
Yeah.
After being there for a couple of years? What are you gonna look at? You know,
Which is what I'm looking at here, trying to figure out, what.
well, I don't think we need to worry about anything for this year.
Right.
Because it will be, almost everything will be covered under warranty. And then we know the life expectancy
Yeah.
of the roof and the garage doors. So I would say we
At
will
first.
keep track of kind of what the maintenance costs are of hosing it down.
Yeah.
But
So
we
how
wouldn't
do
be
we-
putting it into the budget until,
How do we, on our current buildings that we already have, how do we budget to make sure maintenance is done on those buildings? And then are we doing that also for this new
we
building?
don't, we just fix it.
Yeah, we just kind of find
Yeah.
the money, and that's what I thought the answer
Like when
was.
the door rotted out last week, somebody cut the bottom of it off and put a 2x4 there in its place.
Yeah.
And I had to break down and buy him a new toilet seat. Cause that finally broke, so.
So is there an opportunity to, capital money, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you'd
Yeah.
eventually maybe have a
eventually, but
maintenance-
we shouldn't
For,
really.
I'm talking more,
Yeah.
I
Not
think this
just-
gives us an opportunity to really inventory everything we have and then think about, how we plan for that and what the life cycle is of all the different things and sort of plan that out into the capital budget and maybe there's some new line items that we address in the general fund too, but with the new building, we do have that time frame where we have time to think about that because the first year we aren't going to see those costs. First
All right.
year.
Are there more comments, or do you have anything else? Mike, you wanna?
Well, one of the things we'll have to be thinking about are the maintenance and of the stormwater system and permits and that kind of stuff. But I don't think it won't apply this year.
For at the new garage,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. I think that's it. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
All right.
And now the one we've been waiting for.
Planning and zoning.
All out of money. Sorry. So Alex will talk about planning and zoning budget and then the technology budget.
So you have
Which
a
one
memo in your
first?
packet for planning and zoning.
Yeah, let's talk about the planning and zoning budget. That's the more significant one. So hopefully you had a chance to look at the memo dated December 7th. Aaron and Renee and I met, so there was a previous version of this, and after some collaborative thinking, it was modified a little bit here and there. So the December 7th memo and the spreadsheet that goes with it explains the budget. It's there aren't any dramatic changes, but there never are in this budget, at least in dollars and cents, because most of the budget is tied up in labor costs. And so I talk about the salary and wages, and I had plugged in a 2.5% increase. I think Mike's was 3%.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should
So
standardize
I
on
did
it.
in the whole thing that you saw, so there's
Okay.
3% shown in every department
Yeah.
increase. He's just in his shows what 2.5% would be.
Right, so you'll want to standardize that, of course, and
Right.
if you're going to bump this up to 3% for budgeting purposes, you'll decide later how much it actually is.
Right.
It's going to increase the budget more.
I think we should do that, and then maybe we could have sort of a side sheet that sort of says if it's this, here's what the total is, if it's
Yeah, I
this.
think that's what you'll see at your January meetings. This is kind of getting you
Yeah.
through all the departments, and then those are the things you're gonna be considering, where to cut, find some savings is different things, and
Renee's guidance was try to keep the budget within 2.8, I think,
Yeah,
was
2.8
the
was sort of the-
municipal
that was kind of the
inflationary
guiding-
number.
Yeah.
So that's why I plugged in 2.5%.
Okay.
It's hard to it's hard to do anything with the small slice of discretionary
Right.
spending if
Yeah.
labor costs go up at the highest possible percentage. And it's not that labor's not important, but it's a lot of money.
It's just the bulk of your
Yeah,
budget.
exactly. So beyond that line item, I'll just touch on a couple of the more significant ones. I'm proposing a fairly substantial percentage increase in the professional development line item. And as I explained in the memo, we've been very penny pinching about this ever since I've been here. Pretty minimal spending with regard to covering staff's professional memberships in, say, the American Planners Association or the Vermont Planners Association. And I think now that we have a stable staff, the last couple of years has been a little bit of a roller coaster with staffing. But now that we have stable staff, I think it's time to invest in them and keep them and bring them up in terms of professional training and that sort of thing. And so that's why I'm proposing to increase that. And I talk about what some of those funds would be used for. If you look at some of the other planning and zoning departments in the county, they have much larger professional development budgets, and ours has just been small. So this looks like a large increase, but I think it's right sizing that line item. Renee and Aaron and I talked about reintroducing this professional services line item, which was zeroed out last year, I believe, to try to, again, save a small amount of money to keep the percentages of increase down last year. And this is an unplanned and sort of not predictable line item, but occasionally projects come up where we need to go out and get some professional expertise. When we revised our stormwater regs, we hired someone from Engineering Ventures to come in. That was really helpful. And there was no other pot of money really to take that from. So in any case, that's why that's back in there. It's not that we have a particular service we're anticipating, but just in case. Mileage is going up a fair amount. Trevor and I miscommunicated, I guess, because it was dropped when I didn't want it to be dropped based on what the actuals are. And so this is, again, right-sizing back to what our actuals are. Zoning administrator is on the road a fair amount. Pretty much every day she's in the office, she's out posting a permit or doing a CO inspection, and those miles rack up. We don't have a town vehicle for the town office or the planning and zoning department, so we're reimbursed for mileage. The core of the planning and zoning budget and where we tend to have discussions here every year is in the special projects line item, because that's really the most discretionary part of the budget, and that's where we pay for projects that we do on an annual or every other year basis, based on what the planning commission is working on, or sometimes what the select board is working on. So last year I came to you and said, listen, it took me 15 years. I finally figured it out. It needs to be this much so that we have at least the required local match to leverage the state municipal planning grants, and the regional planning commission's unified work program, projects. It's the same this year for that reason. So there's a little decrease because, we're not paying for aerial photos again next year. We're paying for those this year, and hope to see them later in 2018. But the core of it, the $6,000, is still intact. The municipal planning grant program through the state is changing their funding formula a bit, and so the 6,000 that I discussed last year and that I'm proposing this year should cover both that as well as leveraging some of the regional planning commissions, UPWP, as it's shown in the memo program. So I think for the same 6,000, we can continue to leverage both of those programs. I do need to come back and talk to you before the deadline for submitting proposals to the Regional Planning Commission's UPW program, UPWP. That's January 19th, and there has to be a formal agenda item on a select board meeting that shows that there was some discussion about a specific project.
And this is where you're gonna choose a specific one?
You're going to help me
Right,
choose it.
right.
Yeah. Andrea and I were going to get together to talk about that. We haven't had a chance yet, but I've got maybe 6 or 7 ideas. And if you approve this budget, or we've got some local match to put towards, maybe 1 or 2 of those ideas. So rather than go into them now, I just want to get on an agenda between now and January 19th so we can talk about that.
there's the January 8th meeting, and then the January 15th.
So yeah, one of those, you and I can figure
Okay.
that out.
Be nice to sort of introduce it on the 8th, and then, the
Finalize it on the
15th. Yeah.
15th, especially if
Yeah.
there are questions or what
Right.
have you. Okay. So in terms of what special projects we're going to work on in this fiscal year that we're talking about, we don't have one nailed. The fiscal year will start in July 1. We have a planning project that's probably going to take us through most of 2018 in terms of the village rezoning and figuring out phasing of development. The other projects that we see on the horizon could benefit from some of these potential grants that we could go after with these funds as local match. But we're not selecting one per se. There's sort of a cadre of ones that are possible. And I mentioned a couple in the memo. So that's the special projects line item. It's a little bit down from last year.
There's also, you just mentioned the municipal planning grant and UPWP, but there's also ERP funds that the town would be eligible for also, depending on what kind of projects we come up with, so.
Sure, and that we've used those funds in the past for stormwater related improvements, which the planning commission continues to advocate, and I continue to advocate that the town proactively do these kind of projects, especially in the village area where there isn't another entity that's going to help clean these things up.
You'll notice in the town administrator line, there's 5,000 for stormwater. You guys started doing that last year and putting,
We do have a specific project that was scoped, which is actually adjacent to the rain garden project near the school. It would capture more runoff from the school proper, whereas the current rain garden captures mostly runoff from 116. So there is a project that we could move forward on that, and sure, these special project funds could be used in that direction as well if it was deemed, a priority. I'm always hopeful that there are other pots of money that could also be
Right.
leveraged, and Renee just mentioned one that potentially could help in that regard as well.
Well, that project, I think, is in the schools, but needs to be in the school budget
Yeah,
really quick.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but
But
there's certainly other stuff.
we have others
yeah,
as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
Yeah, and, yeah.
Just finishing up the memo, the Affordable Housing Committee is in the process, actually just finishing an update to the housing needs assessment. That was a large line item in this year's budget, $4,000. So it's not in the proposed budget for next year because the project's complete. So that's a decrease. That was a one-time expense. And the capital transfer shows an increase because, unfortunately, we were unable to secure state planning funds to do this major zoning overhaul that I discussed with you for a couple of years. So I'm proposing that we set aside some money in the next few years and just save and do it with our own local funds. We can try to pursue other funding, but
Would there be another chance for?
we can always reapply it. It's not a good sign if they're not if it wasn't selected. So I'm happy to chat with those folks who run that grant program and find out why wasn't this competitive. But my guess is that that we're probably going to have to pay the lion's share of it. So I think
it's
we
not-
got to start saving.
It's not the work that they want to pursue, not that it's not worthy work, it's just not what
Right,
they want
right.
to pursue.
Any grant that you apply for has certain priorities that they're shooting for, and
Sure.
certain priority points that they grant, that they give to projects and they use to decide who gets funding. The state municipal planning grant program always has a couple $100,000 more in asks than they have in money to give, and so you have to be pretty tightly matched to the priorities that they have for that year. And it's unfortunate. The program likes to fund very conventional, update your town plan, rewrite your zoning to better accomplish your town plan. And these sort of projects where you're rewriting your zoning to be more innovative and more descriptive and more concise, I don't think they see them as, a high priority for that grant program.
But it seems like it would certainly be worthwhile and in the long run, save everybody a lot of time and confusion.
Well, that's
and-
my hope. It was
Yeah.
funny just today. Mondays are always a very busy day in our office on the third floor, and today was no exception. But it seems inevitable that at least a couple times a week, questions come up where we have to have a powwow about, well, what does the zoning actually say about this? It's not quite clear. And even though the Planning Commission is working on a very hefty batch of housekeeping changes to try to make clarifications, they continue to come up, and it really partly is a function of how frustrating zoning is, but is also partly a function of these regulations being cobbled together over 40 years and never having had that comprehensive soup to nuts revision, which is what I'm proposing. So it's definitely needed, but it's not cheap, and it doesn't look like we have grant funding flowing toward the project, so we need to start saving for it. That's what the capital transfer is proposed for. On the revenue side, it's probably going to be similar. I think in this fiscal year, we were a little optimistic and bumped it up a little bit. I'm proposing we put it back to what it was for FY17 in terms of the actuals of 35,000. Until we get this water situation figured out, we're not going to see the big boost in permitting fees that we will see if that ever happens. But until then, we're lucky to be, pulling in the revenue on target that we have been. So that's about it. Beyond that, there's a little bit more in the memo about, 3 of the projects that we would like to be working on in the planning realm in FY19, as well as the 5 or 6 projects that we're working on this year.
And with that, before we move to technology, we've got Carl Bolin here, so do we want to give you an opportunity to provide an update with the affordable housing and?
Yeah, Carl, the Affordable Housing Committee budget has been in my budget, and so I communicate with the committee and say, got any project ideas this year? What are you looking for? My budget reflects a $500 amount, which is sort of the steady as you go amount that most of our committees work with. Got something else, Carl?
No, not really, but I didn't hear everything you said, but
You should
Get you the mic.
You have to use the microphone.
can I stand here or can I?
And
You can grab it
You
too.
can grab it and sit down.
Yeah, and you have to sing too. You have to sing.
Do a little dance and sing.
Renee will get the
You'll want to
karaoke.
adjourn your meeting. The big item is the housing needs assessment.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
it's-
here, we're reviewing it to finalize it. And I'm thinking that would sort of set our sort of focus for 2018. And the other thing is Alex has the town plan and all these action items, and I think he's going to join us in February to sort of see what we can do on that. 2 other things to note. I've been going to some of the meetings for sunny Sunset Lake Villa, the mobile home park that's up for sale. And I yet don't see a role for the town. It's the mobile home park in St. George and the one here in Hinesburg.
Yeah.
And they voted to go co-op. Each park voted on its own to go co-op. And they're seeking money from an organization, acronym CDI, but the appraised value is lower than the asking price, so they're not really sure what's going to happen. And I think Friday was the date it could actually go for sale, and I haven't heard. And I'm not actually in the loop. The CVOEO is working with the mobile home park tenants, and they had to give me permission to attend the last meeting. Bill Lippert asked me to go, and the representative that covers St. George is at the meeting. So I'm not sure where it's going to go. I think if they are able to buy it with the funds from CDI, they won't need to be seeking grant funds, but I don't know that. And then the other thing we're doing is we're partnering with the Energy Committee. They're looking at ways to make homes more energy efficient without always assuming natural gas is the first choice. So we've had one meeting with them just to understand their idea, and we're going to meet again in January and see if we can iron out things a little more concrete that the two committees can work on to educate people who might be able to save some money, because there are potentially options in addition to the natural gas option. So I think that's just a quick summary. And we're down one member. Thank you for making it easier by making us a 7-person committee instead of 9. And I think we might be able to have a 7th member early in 2018. So they would be coming to you to apply. And I think everybody that was up for reappointment said they would do it this year, including someone that didn't have to.
And so that reduction, as I showed you in the email, that had happened
Right.
at a previous
Yeah,
meeting apparently.
so-
And that's what we became aware of.
And so the report,
The needs assessment?
the needs
report?
assessment, when do you think that will be done? Just in April or something? Or?
Oh, I think January.
Oh, okay.
The
Yeah.
consultant delivered the draft.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gave him a bunch of comments. He's making changes, and Carl's committee would like a chance to look at it
Got
and
it.
make comments. And I talked to John, by the way,
John
the
Wright,
consultant,
yeah.
and he said, however you want it to work is
Yeah.
fine. I'm happy.
Okay.
He's happy to make the changes. So probably February, March, I think,
Yeah,
is
and
when
then
it'll get
go on the
finalized.
town website, and we'll have a chance to take
Yeah.
a look at it. Sounds good. Good.
And use that to assess some of the goals in the town plan about whether they're realistic or
Yeah, but
how
I-
it matches. I mean, I
I-
think now we have some real data.
That, and I think to move beyond the planning piece and say, listen, the town plan has general goals about X, Y, Z. The housing needs assessment reinforces that with recommendations and data. Let's go. Let's have, the committee, help in partnership or seeking a project, for the town to get behind, whether it's additional senior housing or
Which is likely to be a top of the list type
Yeah.
project.
yeah, from looking at the draft report.
Because
okay.
because it takes so long to get these things done.
Well, they all take a long time.
Actually, really more just the need,
Right.
not the time it takes, but just the need,
Right.
Yeah.
and the fact that the housing that's been added recently hasn't touched the need.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Any other questions on either the housing or overall planning and zoning?
No, I'll just say that in meeting with Alex on this, one of the key things for me, which isn't a large amount dollar-wise, is the professional development. That's a really key point to this that I spoke to Alex about, that speaks to his comment about the stability now of the staff and where Alex has sort of crafted the department, and this is part of that plan, is to give these specific employees, but town employees in general, that development that they need to be the professionals that we have hired to do the work that we're asking them to do. And again, $1,600 just scratches the surface. We could double that easily. I was talking to Alex about this, but that's an important part of this.
I'd agree. I mean, when you look at certain things, you just have to do it because you have to do it. Other things are leveraged.
Yeah.
And this very
is
well
one-
could be one that really leverages either better service and an overall better.
Yeah, the
better
difference there is,
operation.
you know, instead of one we have to do, this is one we get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an important one.
I'd agree.
Yeah, well, and hopefully whatever staff is learning can also be transferred to the committees, the commission and the DRB, and that, you know, there's sometimes opportunities for those committees to attend conferences, and that should not be a limitation if people, I mean, they may be giving up their day of work as a volunteer to go, but if we can cover the cost of them attending a meeting or something, I think that's very worthwhile as well.
That's been our policy for many years,
Yeah.
is that any of our committees that are interested in attending a related conference, I try to get those notices out, and whether it's somebody from Carl's committee or from the planning commission or the DRB, you know, we're always trying to pick up the registration for at least a couple folks,
Yep.
if they're interested. And we will continue to do that.
Okay, anything else? So we'll move on to the
Thank you, Carl.
technology. Thank you, Carl.
So just to clarify, this is the town hall technology budget. So there's technology that extends beyond the town hall with the highway department and police department, fire,
Every
water and
department
sewer.
it touches, yeah.
Right.
And so other than the actual town website, you know, Mike, he's collecting his own data and has his own systems associated with his trucks, and obviously police department have their own internet connectivity, and
Right.
so
System.
this is
we
just
all-
a general.
Each of the departments sort of manages their own IT support, which I think is a little weird,
like
frankly.
like
but
NIMRIC, if somebody has questions, you know, the town clerk, then they
Well,
don't.
so what
do they
NIM-
go through you
what
for that?
what NIMRIC
No.
does is support that
Right.
software.
Yep.
But if Missy's computer dies
Yep.
or has an issue, then it's not NIMRIC that fixes that. It's a part of this budget,
Right.
In another line item where we have an IT professional that'll come in. My point is only that what we do for IT here in this building is different from how we do it in the police station or at the highway department. For example, police department uses a local Heinsberger, at least last I knew, a local Heinsberger who does IT. We work with an IT group out of South Burlington. So it's a little disparate
Okay.
the way these things work. But in any case, whether that's good or bad, this is the town hall technology budget, and Renee and Aaron and I talked a bit about this. My direct involvement is mostly on the computer side because I pretend to be the IT person here in the building until we need to call in the guys who make $100 an hour. So the notes kind of explain what's varying a bit, and the biggest one is the server. So we in this fiscal year that we're planning for, it's due to be replaced, and so that's a large expense. It's one that we save for through the capital reserves program, and we should have $7,500 in capital reserves by the time that fiscal year begins. So the amount that we anticipate, will be partially offset by those capital reserves. And I'm also talking about purchasing a new one of those, the projector. It's not so bad right now, but boy, when it was upstairs in your main room, it seemed like it was extremely hard to see, and
Very dim.
focus was not ideal, and it was just too dim.
Underpowered for the size of the room.
Yeah, so that was my
screen.
thought, is that based on some of the comments I heard, it might be time to budget for an upgrade to this thing.
It's amazing the difference of space
Yeah.
can make, but we'll see.
Is this the original one that we got?
This is the first digital projector we ever bought, so it's
Probably the cost of them have come down.
Not bad.
Well, you can
not.
spend a
I
good
went
amount for
I
it.
went online and looked, and they're not that much less expensive. You're still in the $1,000 range.
Yeah.
For the brighter ones, that can also be set closer to the screen and do the things that we need to do. I think ideally, Rocky and I talked about this when he was still here many years ago, but ideally we would mount it
Yeah.
up there so
And
we
then
could
you
get
could
it
still
out of
have
there.
this mobile if you needed to.
Sure. Yeah, as a backup. In any case, that's in the budget too.
Yeah.
It's not. This still works, but that was the thought behind it. And also on the capital transfer side, you'll see there's a big decrease, and that's just a function of the server and the fact that we save for it until the year we're going to replace it,
Yeah.
and this is the fiscal year to replace it, so we don't need to put money aside. We'll start that again in the next fiscal year.
How often do we have to replace it?
Well, we have it on a 5-year cycle, which is similar to what our workstation computers are. It's always a little touch and go. So the last time it crapped out before the 5 years, this time I was very nervous about it doing the same thing earlier this year. And I replaced a couple of its hard drives and it seems to be okay. Occasionally it just dies and I have to clean out dust and do other things. But in any case, I think 5 years works.
We talked about this a little bit, but do we want to, if we were to go ahead with this idea, between now and the next 5 years, look at not having things physically based to
Right.
your server side?
So-
And
The last time we replaced the
I was gonna
server,
ask that.
the last time we replaced it 5 years ago, we worked with our contracted technical group. They're called
Sure.
the Tech Group out of South Burlington. And they gave us quotes of, here's what it costs to move entirely to the cloud. Here's what it costs to do what you're doing now. Here's what it costs to have a server that with Microsoft Exchange running, so you manage your own email and people can log into the server from outside of the building. And we went with the cheapest option, which was just what we have and no cloud and no Microsoft Exchange. We'll do that again in this
Yeah,
next
that would
fiscal
be
year.
good.
We'll get all those quotes and
Yeah.
see what the
Okay. prices
prices look like. At the time,
Yeah.
it was substantially more expensive to be in the cloud. And it's fairly easy to just have a piece of hardware that you manage and, bring backups off-site. But we'll evaluate that.
And as we have that conversation, to also bring into that conversation the concept you just mentioned a moment ago of how we're sort of spread all over with how things are being managed,
Yes.
So if there was a unifying sort of direction with how we approach IT, whether that be one extreme of an IT department on staff that we have as employees to just having, which is kind of like a ways off, I'm sure.
Right. Probably
to-
not big enough for that.
Correct. But, ideally, we're talking like in an ideal world, right? So coming back from that, then you would have all departments perhaps,
Right.
under one.
I
Yeah,
personally think it would
exactly.
make way more sense if the server that lived here or in the cloud was
Yeah.
used by all
Absolutely.
town employees wherever they were located. My impression in the past, this was 4 or 5 years ago
Yeah.
when we replaced the server, is that the police department needs to be completely siloed and they just they can't play the same game because of their, I don't know exactly why, it's sensitive information. They're tied into some direct internet connection to Montpelier
yeah.
and the state. So I think if that's still the case, it leaves us largely with the benefit of doing that is largely between the town hall and the highway department and water and
And
sewer.
waterways.
And that could be enough of a benefit to move in that direction. Mike has been extremely self-sufficient. I don't understand exactly how he makes all of his IT stuff happen. And frankly, the water and sewer department have been as well under Eric.
Maybe we're searching for, problems and,
Well, I think it makes sense when we do the server replacement to have those conversations,
yeah.
to pull a department head meeting and just say, listen, this is boring IT stuff, but we're going to do it. And,
Yeah.
are there possibilities for greater efficiencies and savings or better service or what have you? We're not an organization that tends to spend lavish amounts of money on anything. So most of us that work for you
Get by with what you got.
try to get by and take the lower cost option when possible.
Yeah.
But you can kick us in the rear end and push us forward when
Yeah, at least
when
that's
you
the
think it's a
question.
good idea.
We don't have to buy it, but
what
it's
I
nice
did-
to know the number every 4 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
did hear is you haven't, you've saved some money because it's time to probably take a look at it and do something. But before you do something, you haven't decided what that is.
No,
quite
we'll
yet,
definitely
so
get quotes on
that's good.
all these options
Yeah.
and
Because I would
figure
guess
out
the
which one makes
cloud,
sense.
solution, more people are moving that way, and the costs are coming down. So
Yep.
What is the fairly large increase in website maintenance?
So that one there is one I can speak to in the same way that we're having this conversation, is that we have, it's kind of a misnomer, it's going to be renamed just purely website. We, for the last, I don't know, whenever the site went online in the late 90s or somewhere around that time.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, somewhere about that time, we've had a $10 a month website is basically what it is. And it is what it is. And to get the site to the point where websites are nowadays, it's going to take a fair amount of money to bring that in line with what sites are. So it's an initial chunk of money to get us in there, and then ongoing every year of something more than $10 a month is what we're getting for now. So I'm going through that process right now of finding what that cost is, and I put in as a holder on that 75, because that's about what I'm finding to get into the game, and then you're looking at a couple of thousand every year thereafter. So we're still in the figuring out stage with that. I found a couple of vendors. We can continue to have the $10 a month site be what it is. What I'm hearing from staff, from public, from people who use it, that they're wanting a little bit more than that. And so I've started that process, and those are the costs that we're looking at. Something we're moving out of the free realm and into having to pay for it.
but we would still sort of maintain it, upload
100% would be ours.
documents, and
100%.
change pictures.
And to that point, actually, there's a lot of efficiencies that probably could be had, with regards to,
some shared duties in that way.
that's the big part right there. That's the big part right there. But yeah, without getting into the nitty gritty of it, that's a conversation that I've had many times with Renee over the years, and it's even more relevant now with the hiring process that she's going through as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I will say, it must have been a day or two ago, I went on the town website, sort of a very small town, and I won't say it because I probably shouldn't, but I was like, what a nice website they have, It was really laid out very well. So it would be good before, we make up our mind on what we should do, we should at least look to see what's out there, not to be the best, but to see, there may be some efficiency here.
I think what we're
Something
finding
be
though is
said.
that you can play, you can present as the best, and you can be any size now, and that economy
Right.
of scale is
Right.
with the technology is right there, but it costs a few dollars more than what we're paying now, which is almost nothing.
$10.
$10 a month. Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Okay. Any other?
Pretty cumbersome.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I don't know about our email account.
Well,
I mean, it just I don't know what it is, but I find it
I agree.
not
I
very
agree.
user friendly.
I agree 100% with you there too, and that's what Alex briefly spoke to there with
Okay.
regards to cloud. So there's a whole suite of products that we could
Okay.
move to that could make you very happy. Let's just say. But yes, we are in a. This is something that hasn't had any money or attention really put on it for a couple of generations. I agree with you.
Well, what about the email is problematic for you, Andrea?
I don't know, just now. I guess I'm so used to Gmail that navigating this one, it's just harder for me to pull up documents to search. I mean, searching on it is like, oh my God, either by date or alphabetical. I mean, it's
Or
you just
memory.
In
can't.
comparison to.
Yeah, in comparison
Yes,
to
yeah.
Gmail.
And your
Google.
user interface with it is through a website, through the
Webmail, probably.
web, yeah,
Zimbra.
Yeah, I guess so.
as opposed to using a third-party software to manage it like Microsoft Outlook or something else.
I guess.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And partially what she's speaking to is multiple places where you access it. So if you're sitting at your desk and you just have Outlook open, it's a lot easier. But, you know, myself included, that's not the way it is. And so everything goes through the webmail interface, and it's certainly not. I mean, it came out of a shareware environment. You know, it is what it is. It's functional. It works.
No, I've had similar problems,
But-
not with my work email, because like Aaron said, I'm on this computer, I use Microsoft Outlook, it works. But with other organizations I'm in, trying to use webmail interfaces, it's a real pain.
Agreed. Yeah, and there's a lot better solutions out there. So I agree with you.
I'm glad to know it's not just.
No, it's not just you.
not.
It's definitely not just you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Planning and zoning or technology? Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, Alex. The last item on this budget review is I guess, review on the capital budget transfers.
So we talked a little bit about it, more related to the highway department. Alex spoke to the transfers for, let me pull up the right one here.
Town Hall Technology FY18-19
Okay.
budget December 7th, 2017. Town Hall Technology FY18-19 budget December 7th, 2017.
And on cue, she's providing the entertainment again.
Interesting. So, I didn't realize you could do that, so it talks to you when it opens. the
I don't know
document.
when it talks to me, if you could tell me.
And
Be safe for
opportune
some
moments.
embarrassment.
All of a sudden, you just find out what you're doing. So that was in our Dropbox too, right?
Yeah.
It is?
Yes.
Which
Yeah,
one?
I just got it. Yeah, what's that?
Back to
I know it was in here.
Which number is it?
this, right? 5A.
Yeah, there's 5A.
Oh, 5A, yeah,
okay.
got it, right,
Yeah.
got it.
Yep.
Man, you don't happen to know what the capital transfer was total for this fiscal year, for FY18, do you?
I don't have it on this, but I can.
No, that's okay. I
easily
was
get
just wondering
that.
if you had it right there, because I look at the bottom line and see
that's what I was-
595,388, and I'm thinking, is that more or less than what we put aside
Well,
last year?
right. I think it's less on that, and we were able to, because we put some money aside last year, like I said, for the 1 ton, and then when we did put some money for the police cruisers, that's a savings this year.
That's for last year.
Yeah.
Was it 538? Is that what you have, Aaron? For
Oh, no,
last?
so last year, we did have more, we have more this year for FY19. You're showing, oh no, you're showing FY17, so we need FY18.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
I think I have it from last year. Now that I asked the question, I think it's
would be this one here.
So you would
538,000.
be Here,
This one.
this one,
This
down
one.
bottom, yep. So look at that figure right there. So in FY18,
538.
$538,279.06. And this year, we're tracking a lot higher than that, at $595,388.79. So,
And
I
in
think
some
I think I
cases-
put that in there, what the
What the difference is?
yeah.
It doesn't much matter in the sense
Right.
of the annual budget, because it's worked into each of the
It's worked into
departments'
each one, you have
budgets.
a capital transfers.
Just interesting, because you see the comparison moving out into the future,
Right,
just not seeing it going backwards.
right. So, that's what a biggest share of the highway increase was capital transfers.
Would be good to, understand what the delta is. In some cases, it's because we're hopefully being a little smarter.
Uh-huh,
But what we've added in there, but.
right.
And there's not a lot of that, really.
So in this year, the only thing that we've added is the tanker right now for the highway. We've had discussions, but nothing, you're not seeing anything new on this right now. So that's, I mean, if,
Staying the
that's what
course.
I'm waiting
Yeah.
for feedback from you guys. If there's something you feel really strongly that we need to be addressing for FY19, then we should do that. Moving forward, after we get through this budget process, then we're, as we've talked about, really start thinking about our capital planning.
Right.
So I'm brought to our checklist of priority items.
Yep.
You know, is what I'm thinking
Right.
about when you're asking that question.
Yeah, and those are things we've talked
From the
about.
town plan,
We want to
yeah.
really be addressing the town plan things in our capital budget process. And I think the whole capital budget has really improved over the years, but there's still room to keep, keeping that forward momentum going and really thinking about everything we do and what we need to run the town and what the replacement schedule is, what are the things that we want to still do that we haven't done yet.
I don't see any buildings R&M.
So we
Town
haven't.
hall, there is town hall in there.
There's buildings and facilities, there's nothing for, this is only showing what the transfer is for this year.
What's going into the budget already?
Yeah. So for
Versus
FY19.
what's in the
If you
budget.
look at the sheets that you guys have, I don't have that up here. It kind of goes out, yeah, that's on this one. Get into Dropbox. So what's reflected on that FY19 is just what was in the narrative of what was scheduled to be in the transfers in FY19. The only additional was the tanker that Mike identified as something that needs to be replaced soon.
So the concepts that were discussed at your earlier meeting about like, let's have a little reserve for each municipal building hasn't been built into this yet.
Right.
Right.
Could be added in this year, but I think the thought was we have lots of ideas of how to improve the capital budget.
Right.
And probably need the next year to be working on them so that when you're here again a year from now, we can talk about what to add, and then you're gonna have the difficult job of saying, well, that's all good stuff to add, but boy, that's gonna blow up the budget.
Yeah.
So which one has the highest priority?
I think it doesn't hurt to really, what we need to do is to look at it all and get it on paper. And then we'll really understand what this whole capital budgeting thing means for the next 25 years is really kind of we're tending to just look in 5-year increments, but I think the point is, especially when we're talking about the buildings,
Right.
is that it's the life expectancy of all of our assets and how we're, just like Aaron, when you were bringing up the idea of maintenance on this new town garage. Well, we need to be looking at what's the
Yeah.
maintenance on the police station, because in 25 years, we'll be right back where we were
Right.
5 years ago before we built the new police
And,
station.
and of course, that's where we are with the current fire station, with Al here last week saying we built it in 70,
Right.
whatever. And now we have these other kinds of issues that have come up.
Well, there's also there
That-
was never a capital budget for the fire station.
Right.
It was always because they raised money.
Yeah, it was a whole different
in-
scenario,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but yeah, it's a tremendous tool if we can think
Yes.
about it in terms of everything beyond our expectancy in the process.
Yeah.
Important but boring part of the capital budget. The sexier side are the new projects that
Yeah.
are gonna make the community, better, different,
Now.
well,
Yeah, exactly.
over the next 5
Yeah.
to 10 years, but are not just when are we gonna replace the roof on the building with the roof that we already have. They're all necessary. They should all be in there.
Well, that's what we have to pay attention to. I think what we have to do is critical and.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if the roof goes,
When the roof goes.
when the roof goes, I mean, the town's gonna fix it.
Absolutely.
So, it's not like it's not gonna be
Didn't do
done,
that on the vestry.
but, it's, it would be good to sort of work our way into it. We're not gonna be able to do it in 1 year, it's all of a sudden,
Right.
but conceivably you could say, even if you said town buildings and started a fund and even group them together and sort of say, you know, we've got some capital money, so when something comes up, we can draw off of it and it doesn't impact our budget so much. And then you don't have to put in additional money in your budget because something's going to come up.
The library was talking about that earlier tonight.
Yep.
And I think that's something we can be doing, like with the buildings, like the roof, we can have someone come take a look at it, see if there's anything that needs to be done, see
Right.
how long we have. And that way we can kind of gauge how much money we need to be right-sizing it to be putting aside for that replacement or whatever the case is.
You do need to make a policy decision at some point, though, along the lines of what Andrea was saying on the highway budget. You know, do you want to take debt to pay for big expenses and repay that debt looking forward? Or do you want to save money and take out less in debt, but essentially saddle today's taxpayers with tomorrow's expenses, or tomorrow's taxpayers with today's expenses? And it'll help Renee, I think, do this capital budgeting work if you have a sense of where you want to be with that, and whether you want, for example, to save for vehicle purchases. Do you want to save enough to pay for a down payment? You know, maybe not the whole thing, but 10 or 20% of the cost. Or do you not want to save it all because we get such great interest rates as a
Right. I mean,
municipality?
right
We won't always be getting
Right.
such great interest rates. I mean, I think
Haven't we always though? Or
well, they're always a little bit less than market rate, but
but as they go up, ours go up as well, right? And
Yeah.
that's money lost.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
for sure.
expect they'll always be this low,
Yeah.
but
But I remember when Randy was on the board, he was very adamant that we shouldn't save today to pay for something tomorrow. We should, once we know what it's going to cost, then we'll take out the loan and we'll pay it back. You know,
Yeah. that's
and-
not a bad, I mean, that's not a bad way to go either. I mean, you know.
Well,
right.
again,
But that's the
yeah.
thing is I think we really need to articulate what
What-
those
what
two
our
different
policy is.
policies are. And of course, it can change depending on who's sitting here, but I mean, we've really got, we are in a sense doing today, putting away money for future expenses.
Yes.
So we've moved a little bit in that direction. The question is exactly that. Are we putting 10% down, 50% down? You know, in Colchester, I think they try to pay for everything, not have any loans. So,
Boy, I'd have to look at their budget to see if they
Yeah.
don't have any loans.
yeah. Or
They-
certain, I mean, I'm sure they
Yeah.
bond for certain
Yes.
stuff,
Right.
but,
But the point is they move in that direction a whole lot more than
Yes.
what we have
Yes.
recently. Yeah. They're not looking at,
right.
Well, I mean,
But other
you know,
towns have other sources of revenue as well.
Right.
that We
Yeah,
don't.
Some
we
people
don't.
have the local options tax, some people have different
Yeah,
things.
some
that are
people
bringing
get
in.
fees for different things that
Right.
are in their town and.
Right.
Well, I mean, we certainly can work on this policy over time, and we could find a difference that sort of says, look, the goal is to make that first down payment of 20%. That's the goal, and so you're going to start putting away a little bit of capital for a couple of years, and then you're able to buy the new truck or the whatever it might be, and I'm always one to sort of say we should be delaying when we buy the new truck and the new cruiser and whatnot, because every year you delay, even if it costs you a little bit in repairs, that adds up. And, you could use that year that you delay to put that money aside.
Well, then maybe that's the policy we adopt. We talked about it.
Yeah, we have, and sort of say we're gonna push them, one more year, and then have a down payment.
I think that's why in each of the departments that have the vehicles, why they're separating them out, tracking what.
Which is good. That
Right.
helps,
Yeah.
So we're not just making
Right.
decisions
And you
here
don't want
at
something
this
to be in
table.
the shop all the time
Right.
out of service, so you're
Yeah.
trying to weigh that, but, so
Yeah.
that's a good start, that is being tracked now, so
Yeah.
it gives more information.
Yeah, we heard that from, either from the police department, you
Yep.
know, with regards to their mileage and
Yeah.
where it just drops off the table. I imagine it's the same for the red trucks for water, wastewater, something similar. I don't know. I don't know if we have those numbers or if we have an idea about that.
I would imagine we do. I'm not sure that we do with the water, wastewater.
Yeah.
Their mileage isn't as,
Two trucks, right?
Three.
Three trucks? Three pickup trucks?
Yes, there's 3 pickup trucks.
so, but then there's, the highway, which they are separating them out.
Yeah.
So that being able to know what the maintenance costs are with each one. So,
I mean, those are the major capital expenditures. Building repair, obviously paving,
yep.
and some infrastructure for roads, but these vehicles are probably the majority.
Right, yep.
And, we can have a discussion about, having somebody on staff who can help maintain these vehicles. Not that they don't do a good job. Not that the highway doesn't do a good job, I think they
Right.
do. And you look at the vehicles, they all look like they're being well maintained.
Right. One thing I will note here, so if you see, you are gonna see the highway garage, the larger, anything that exceeds a 5-year repayment, that is shown in debt service. So if you look on the FY19 expenditures, under debt service, you'll see the highway garage, the police station, because that's still being paid off. I believe one of the fire trucks,
Vehicles.
the solar trackers are
Solar
are
trackers.
now going to be in there as well. So anything that has a greater than a 5-year repayment schedule is shown in debt service.
And that's this bar chart shows that too.
So that bar chart shows the entire debt service, and you'll see a note at the bottom that you don't want to exceed, is it 10 years?
10 times
So
the
you want to
grand
make
list.
sure that our debt it never exceeds 10 times of what our list is, so.
10 times or 10%?
10 times.
10 times.
Do we want to move on and maybe sort of recap where we are on the budget process? Sort of, what the next steps are and what everybody's thinking
Yeah.
about, how we're going to move forward?
I think so.
Every department, right?
Because the last meeting in December and the first meeting in January, I haven't convinced you guys to meet on Christmas or New Year's yet, so I don't know.
Even though you'll be here.
Yeah. So we're January 8th is our next time we're
Right.
meeting. I think between now and then, so there's still some departments that you haven't, that we need to discuss. But I think overall,
Which
if you
ones are
can,
those still left
so we
out?
still have buildings and facilities, town administrator, select board, all of
Right.
this. So we've gotten through all the big departments. But so we're gonna be, combining all the smaller things that are still outstanding. But I want, if you guys can be, kind of taking notes and thinking about looking through all the budgets we've discussed, really looking through those budgets. Are there some things that you have questions about? Maybe think that we could make some adjustments, down, up, whatever we need to do. Those would be good. That would be good information. So that after the January 8th meeting, that's when we really need to have those discussions of, kind of going through it, kind of like we did last year and having different budget scenarios. If we make these cuts, this will get us down to this percent. If we do this grouping and cut, and then what that means, and then you kind of go from there and decide.
So on the
where we're
8th,
looking
by
to
the
land.
8th, by the time the 8th comes around, we'll have a pretty good idea on where we stand.
Right, yeah.
I mean, right now, it looks like we're looking at a substantial increase.
Yeah, we're
So,
definitely tracking high.
yeah, tracking high is a good way to put it.
Without being
So
alarmist.
we'll want to, maybe on the 8th, after that last presentation, at least have a general discussion of where we are,
Right,
and where different people think we need to be.
and, just to note, even before we started this budget process this year, we were already set up for some increases,
Yeah.
because we brought on the highway garage, so with that debt service, the trackers, purchase. So those were big significant increases. We had based on the replacement schedule for vehicles and equipment. So we
Yep.
have those in our capital transfers. So those alone are the big increases.
comp.
But then we were hit with
There's a couple of other
workers and
things,
comp
insurance.
increase, and the health insurance. So just starting out of the gate, we were already,
Even if
tracking.
everything was
Even if
exactly
everything else
dollars.
stayed the same,
We would still
we would
be up
still
by
be
several
high.
percentage
Yeah.
points. Yeah.
so, just to keep in mind what the biggest drivers are. So,
So I think, probably some kind of recap on the 8th and everybody
yep.
to sort of give their feelings
Right.
on where they think we are.
Right.
And then probably the following week, go down through each department again and, have an opportunity to bring to the board, and ideally ahead of time saying, hey, I'm thinking I'd like to, I don't know, not buy the tanker. And, I think we can save, or only put 7,500 in, and, just picking on the tanker, but,
Right.
or add to, let's pay for the whole thing in 1 year, because it's a smart thing to do.
I would encourage you, before you look at that and go through the increases, if you're not quite sure what the purpose of that is, reach out to the department head
Yeah.
or reach out to me so you can really find out what the reasoning is
Yes.
behind that. So we
Yeah.
don't just all of a sudden, oh, let's take that one out
Yeah.
because it's this dollar amount. Because sometimes there's really some good
Background.
reasoning background
Yeah.
behind that would be important
Or there's
information.
one that goes with another.
Yeah.
kind of
But
thing.
overall, if you track down through every department and look at what those significant increases are, and then kind of list those out, and then think about what's behind that. So if there's some questions that you have, reach out to those department heads, and so that while you're kind of keeping that list in your minds of things that maybe we could make adjustments to, that they're really things that won't have an impact on the services we provide.
Have you been able to hear anything from the schools? I mean, I've heard some rumors.
Well, I've been trying to reach out and I haven't gotten any direct response. I've heard both sides, actually. I've heard that, that the school district merger will buffer us from that substantial increase that the state has. There's gonna be a budget meeting at the Hinesburg Community School. It's this week, I believe.
Oh, I don't know.
Something like that. So they have different locations. They're kind of going through different departments in the budget line, and so each town is hosting one of those meetings, and so Hinesburg is hosting one at the HCS, and I think it's this week. Wasn't quick enough on the draw. So I don't really have an answer on that yet. I haven't, and I don't know that
But
they
I
have a complete
expect
answer.
By the 8th, we'll know.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it should tell us what the town needs to do, but it does have an impact.
I mean, one of the last things I had read that they'd school, it sounds like that they're feeling pretty good and feeling like that merger was beneficial to, the purpose of it was to offset some of these costs with the state, with this. So I don't know. But I haven't gotten, and they haven't worked all the way through the process, but
Right.
so.
Any other comments on the budget?
I just say, and it's, the budget is not going to decrease at any point. We're kind of set up now with all the services that we provide. We're kind of locked in on some things. And what we have failed to do, for various reasons, is increase our growth to offset any of it. I mean, 1% or less every year for the extended amount of time that we've had it is really going to start to hurt. I think we need to, as a board and a town, focus on how we kind of buffer that a little bit. We were expecting a certain amount of growth, and we just haven't had it for even the tiniest amount. Eventually, we're going to have to do that, or we're going to be looking at serious chopping of services. Looking at the budget the way it is this year, and I don't see a lot of places to cut as usual,
Right.
which means you have to offset it some other way. And we're not doing that right now. So that's where I'm at. Maybe it's not this year, but if it's looking like that again next year, it's time for hard decisions, really, in my opinion.
I guess I'd like to phrase it in terms of that we need to think about some changes and some opportunities to increase our revenue. And not necessarily, I mean, what's our definition of growth, I guess? Let's focus on that. We know that we need to have some additional opportunities for sustainable revenue coming into the town to support the services that we're providing. So one answer is growth in the grand list, which I think is what you're saying.
Right.
Right. So I'm just saying, maybe there's some other way that we can find of generating some revenue. I'm not sure, but I do know that in other towns, there's other things that come to the towns in terms, well, I don't think we're going to get much from sales tax, but let's just be thinking of, I don't know, what other fees there might be, or
The only problem with fees is you're still dragging it out of the same people.
right. Well, I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, of fees. I know that just Burlington faces it with the amount of academic institutions that are in the city, and they don't collect property taxes on those.
True.
So I don't know. I'm just saying, when we say growth, it always translates to changes in the grand list. And really, so where are those changes that we want? Where are we going to get the most bang for our buck? If we're talking about the grand list, so what's that sweet spot in terms of, sometimes the more growth you have, it also means increase in services. So let's just think about it strategically, and that's, I think, what you're asking for, Tom.
Well, what I hear Tom saying is, we have the infrastructure here for a town, and that general infrastructure could support more and still provide pretty good services. So if we built out a little more of the village, had some houses, some senior housing, a couple blocks more of stuff, then sure, the town highway may need a smaller truck to plow it, but they have the highway garage, they have the infrastructure in place. I mean, that's, it'll be an incremental change to be able to provide the same level of service. The police department isn't going to necessarily need a new full-time policeman. And, but a large senior housing project may require a little medical support.
Yeah.
It might be something that brings in the,
Or it might put more demand on the police.
It could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not going to require a new police station.
No.
So,
Might
anyways.
require an ambulance.
And the bottom line
Right.
is we've just brought a lot of things online. The new police station,
Yeah.
the new
Highway
water
garage.
treatment,
Yeah.
the highway garage. It's all good,
Yeah.
but we have the same number of people, if not fewer,
Yeah.
paying for it all. And those prices are just going up every year. And there's going to come a plateau where people are just going to throw their hands up and say, I can't do it anymore. It's happening throughout Vermont. And I hate to see it happen here.
Yeah.
But I think we're trending in that direction.
So as a board, there are things we can be, putting a priority on, and one might be, expanding making sure we have at least some water to continue to allow a little bit of growth, addressing wastewater in the long term, whatever that might be.
That's our Christmas present, is reading that
Yeah, reading the new permit.
3 huge documents that we got from the state.
So, good points. Any other thoughts?
I just looked up on the Chemley Valley District website. Tomorrow night is the meeting at Hinesburg Community School. Looks like it's 6:00. If you can't make it, it's going to be videoed. You can
good.
watch it online. And their topic in particular, they're saying on the website, operations and maintenance. It looks like they do different topics of their board meetings at every. So tomorrow night, 6:00 at the school.
Okay. All right, so we should move on. We're a little behind schedule, unless anybody else has anything
To talk to them about a grant.
pertinent for budget. Next item is a brief discussion on the town report. I don't know if you want to give us an update. We got 3 formal comments.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody else got any informal comments,
Let me just pull those up first.
and you had some, you got some information from whatever the newspaper is.
Yep, so I'd reached out to the Citizen, and they felt that the insert is gonna actually be more expensive for us, because they can't limit it to just Hinesburg, it's gonna go out to their whole distribution area. And so the added cost of that is probably, you know, we're not gonna see a savings, we're actually gonna see an increase probably by doing it in that method. I've reached out to our printing company just to see if there's, you know, if newsprint is an option. I haven't received anything back from them. So you know, as far as any of the new options you've explored, really don't have good concrete information. And other than the insert itself, sounds like that's gonna be expensive. I mean, we could put, if we really limit the amount of information, we could possibly have it as part of the Citizen.
What about if it was part of the record? Because it was just that one pager, right? Or if it was 8 pages?
It was 8 pages,
Right.
but that was school and town,
Right.
so, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know how, I mean, the school, obviously, they have theirs planned to have inserted into the town report. We could certainly
Maybe they
talk
can
to them
pay
about
for
that. Yeah, I mean, the school always does pay for their portion,
okay.
their number of pages. So I guess the record is
Just to
another.
compare, do you know off the top of your head what we pay to mail the town report to everybody in town?
I don't have it here, but I could get that from you. Yes, we have the mailing.
Because that's
the-
like if we're talking about like the most money we're going to spend,
Yeah.
it'll be that, right?
Yep,
And then the least amount of money we'd spend is just letting everybody know on Front Porch Forum that they can come pick it up.
right.
I guess those are the extremes, and
Right.
so then it's just a matter of determining how much money we want to spend for service.
Right. Yeah.
I'd like
Let's-
to
yeah,
point
Mary
out
Lee, go
that
ahead.
Roger, I did finally get around to calling Roger today, and he pointed out more than once that, that this was voted on at town meeting, and people voted to have the town
Thank you,
report
Alice.
sent to their houses. So, don't we have to do it
Not
then?
non-binding.
Yeah.
But-
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I got to read Rogers, and I sort of thought about it, and you know, we said we were doing this not to save money, but to save on paper, basically, because it seemed wasteful. But I thought Rogers' letter, you know, talks about new people in town that might not even know what town meeting's even about, and to, you know, it does reach out to everyone, and so I got to thinking, well, maybe. You know, we've tried hard to come up with new ideas, and maybe we go back and say, well, just print the report, mail it out. Maybe we put a nice bin in the post office.
Oh, we did.
That's
We did.
yeah,
Yep.
and we bring them back
Yep.
and reuse as many as we can, and you know, ask at town meeting how people happier or not happier.
One thing that Roger pointed out was that it does maybe, even if half the people throw it away, if the other half read it, it gets them more engaged with the town. They find out about committees and other things about
Yeah.
what we've been doing in the town, and so for that, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, by reducing the number that we print, it's increasing the cost per
Yes,
unit.
right, it's not a savings.
It
but-
really was more about reducing waste,
Mm-hmm.
rather than reducing your cost, because then we were reducing, you know, the number we printed, but then we also had to do this, postcard that went out to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so overall, the cost per unit went up, then we had this extra added cost of the
And
postcard,
we're printing for everybody. What is it? About 2,000 of them.
somewhere in that
Somewhere in
range.
that
Under
range.
2, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember what the total
1800.
was, but yeah, so.
Maybe we need to figure out what's a really positive thing we could do with the old town reports.
Yeah, well, we can talk
Build
about it.
something
There's a bunch
about
in
it.
there. There's
I know, we
some
could build
upstairs.
a,
Here we go.
I still don't think we've considered the option of the newsprint,
Uh-huh.
similar to the grand list mailing. Seems
Yeah.
like it's pretty simple. You can print in color.
So we'd still print the same number and send them out to all the residents, but on lower quality paper, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I asked the question of the citizen, they didn't respond to that one, so I don't know if that's just not an option, that they would print it, or,
Well, what, can't we get from Missy what it costs to send the grand list out?
yeah, we could
Yeah.
certainly do that.
I think that's,
I think it hits on everything. Everybody wants them mailed to the house. We're trying to reduce the costs, the waste. I mean, I think this checks all the boxes, in my opinion.
it makes good stuff for starting fires.
Exactly.
With one
People aren't getting
exception,
the free press.
with one exception that I have to at least raise here, and that is that the document itself, for its historic value, for whatever that means for any individual who looks at it. A newspaper doesn't fit into the sort of archival process for having a town report sit there on the shelf that you can access with the other ones for whatever value that brings to an individual. To me, the book version of the town report speaks to sort of a substance and there is a sort of importance to the document, whereas a newspaper is much more casual and toss. Now, maybe that might be the point of this, but that gets back to my thinking about why we even have this. So there's a couple of big points that we have it for, I'm thinking, and that is, one, to get all the dollars and numbers out to everybody, and to get all of the, what we did this year kind of information out to everybody. But then there's also the part of it that, again, speaking for myself, that I like to go back through the years for whatever reason I might want to at any given time, and others as well, to pull out sort of the value of the community at that particular year, what was going on there and how it's represented in the town report. So it's more than just a document of sort of a balance sheet, but rather think of it almost in terms of the old yearbooks or the old encyclopedias you used to get, which maybe is a bad analogy if I'm using old technology, right? But there's something substantial about having a book about the history of our town at any given year that you would lose, I think, by, you would have gaps if you just went to a newspaper. I'm in favor of keeping it in the book form, and I know that's a cost. And it's not, I guess we don't know what exactly those costs are, but we know it's going to cost more. I hear the argument for mailing to everybody or mailing it to just or just having 500 available. Maybe that's a pretty close cost because they're going to cost more to make less. I certainly appreciate and agree with the assessment that we had that if you mail it out to everybody, it's going to hit people that we wouldn't have hit prior, and there is absolutely value in that. We talk about this all the time to all the people that showed up tonight. Look at them all, right? What if they're on the camera? But what if this room was 3 more people, 5 more people, a dozen people were excited about something, or because of the town report, because they were engaged in the community that much longer, and say those people were people that are new to our community, or just young people coming up through. I think there's value in the book format. Just to throw a counterweight on what you're saying, Tom. Not that I would be distressed if it went to that, but I think it's important to still speak to keeping it in the book form for historic reasons, and also just sort of the importance of the document, the importance of the information in it.
I thought you meant to keep it in the book form, but have it a lower quality paper. I can't imagine if it's a newspaper going through and at town meeting, you like to go through and.
It's still an 8.5 by 11. I mean, that's what the grand list is. It's an 8.5 by 11 format, and so you can look at it. It's just not going to have a hard cover on it. And it might, and as we said, it's like it's the cover of the town report that gives it that kind of high quality, I think, that Aaron's speaking of. I mean, I can look at the town reports that I have from the 1970s, and you know, it's basically a couple pieces of folded paper with a sketch on the front. They're not, I mean, we've definitely gone
We've upped the
way,
game.
yeah.
We've upped the game.
Up the game. And
They were
if you want to
typewritten.
save it, yeah, they're typewritten. If you want to, and every page is a little different because
Yeah.
people had different
Sure.
fonts on their typewriter.
Margins.
But
and
you
all
can
that
put
good stuff.
you
But again,
can
that
put them
speaks
in
to the time.
a manila folder
Yeah.
and save it,
Yeah.
you know, so in terms
Speaks
of
to the
the
time.
quality of the paper. So, I mean, speaking as somebody who really does value them and has a collection, I totally get it. But
Yeah.
thinking about the recycling of the newsprint and using, and the amount of expense in mailing there might be a considerable difference. So, I mean, if we can look at it from that perspective.
But I don't think we know yet, really.
No, we
what
don't,
that-
but we can find,
Yeah.
I think we can easily find it, because
Yeah.
if we know how many pages it is and how many pages it would be in newsprint based on what we spent on sending out the grand list,
Yeah.
it should be.
But now we're going back to
Yeah.
our decision of, are we driven by cost or are we driven by resource? You know, like recycling them. You know, which is more important here? Or is it getting it out to everybody? Like, well, that's the thing that we're stuck on here. It's like,
And I would say, we're not going to come up to agreement. We couldn't come up with one. This is the third year looking
Yeah.
at this. And, you know, again, I'm saying, we gave it a good college try. I think the idea that everybody, you know, should get something is a good argument.
yeah.
And, you know, while a new format, a newspaper, simpler format may be a little cheaper, most of the cost is in mailing and, you know, printing it. And so I'd say it's pretty incremental difference if we're going to mail it to everybody. And we've spent way more time on this than we were going to save. I'm just saying, you know, let's just go at it and do what we normally do, and we can, you know, if somebody else wants to take it and
When you say normally do, what do we normally do?
print the booklets.
We can go back to printing
Yeah,
and
go
sending
just
out to
like we did,
everybody,
yeah,
To everybody.
mailing
Yeah.
it out to everybody.
Yeah.
Rather than,
I'd like to just compare, for the sake of comparison, the newsprint model, you get the numbers from Missy, and the booklet. I don't think
So
it's.
that's just
there
another
shouldn't be-
chance
I
for
mean,
Renee, really.
I think we are all agreed that we
Yeah.
think it's important that it does go to everyone.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's,
So that's a change.
That's a
Maybe
change.
that- or
We're
that's
all
a-
in agreement that it
yeah.
should go to everybody. It should be mailed to everyone. It's not incumbent on them to have to come in and pick it up.
Right, so in terms of what you were saying, Aaron, I would say the priority is it goes to everybody. If we can do it for reduced cost, that
All the
would be
better.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Better. So, we wanted to make a decision tonight because the book is, or the document is on its way to creation.
it sounds like you guys have made one decision, that we're gonna mail it out in whatever format that is. Perhaps this buys some time to find out if what the cost would be of doing newsprint versus what it is now. I mean, is that where you're at, or are you clear, you wanna just do the full thing this year and then look into that, or?
What
do you
is-
want-
I'm just looking at the time,
is
Renee,
your
this
schedule
falls
look like?
on Renee's
Yeah.
shoulders. Our next meeting is January
Next year.
8th.
Yeah. So what's the schedule look like for you? Do you need a decision tonight? Because we can make one if you need one.
I either need a decision tonight or maybe someone to help on trying to find what that cost is, and doing that legwork would be helpful. So,
I'll do that legwork.
all right. I mean, I emailed the citizen, but I haven't, you know,
I'll
gone check
find
with
out the
record.
cost
Find
of
out
doing
from
it.
Missy, that's
Yeah.
gotta be the easiest way.
Yeah, well, I'll find out who printed
Or
it
Nimric.
Yeah.
and find out.
Shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah.
It would be a little different than that report that Missy sent out.
Right, because we
Yes.
need to know the number of
Pictures
pages,
and-
but.
Yeah,
but-
there's gonna
but-
be a little more to it.
Right, but it's, I think it's basically.
I'll bet Nimric helps put that together.
I'm sure they do, but it's, I think it still is, I'll find out. I'll do that. If you have the cost,
There's probably one right across the hall there to look at.
Right.
right, but we're still, yeah, I mean, The point is I think well, this would be the question is, are we just putting the budget numbers there, or do we want pretty much all the information that has gone out?
That's what I
So we
would
want the
say.
reports of the committees.
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
So we want
Yeah.
all that stuff. We
The full
just
document.
want to see what it would cost if we did it in newsprint form.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Booklet form, right? A newsprint booklet form.
Booklet form.
Newsprint,
Okay,
whatever, yeah.
okay.
All right. And then, based on, I would say you could come out with an email and sort of say, here's what it is, just so we know,
Okay.
and we can give Renee some feedback.
Yeah, good.
But unless it's substantial difference, and I think I'm gonna say, is 18,000 sound right for printing and mailing?
1,800.
Yeah, I mean, so for the whole thing, I think we've had around 5,000 something budgeted.
Okay.
For everything,
So, okay.
and that's mailing them.
So if
So
we,
if it saves 1,000, is it worth hearing the complaints at town meeting?
What?
500 complaints.
tell you.
I know the answer to that.
I wasn't at town meeting last year, but the 3 meetings before that, town report was one of the, or at least 2 of them, where it was,
Yeah.
of all
Well,
the things
it's
we
'cause
had, the
it's-
big budget items, that was the
'cause it's
largest
important.
So we're gonna-
amount of time.
We're gonna
talked about.
generate this info that's needed, and then it sounds like we're not gonna make a decision until the 8th now. Does that work? Or is that not even practical? Like getting back to.
I mean, we
doing-
need to be in, we need to,
It seems
it's
that kind
a
of-
little bit of a challenge
Yeah,
because.
Yeah, it
it's
seems
probably
like
gonna
we
be
s-
formatted a little differently, maybe.
Well, why can't we just say if there's a significant cost savings, we'll do it in the newsprint, and if there isn't, we'll just do same old, same old?
What's significant, 50%?
I mean, if the total thing is 5,000, well, what,
Yeah, 50% is certainly significant.
I'd have to, look through and see what the actual cost of the different things, so the postage and all of that, and break that out. And then, because I think what you guys are looking for, it's really the printing cost of doing the newsprint version of the town report versus what it is.
So we already
right
have
now.
5,000 budgeted, right?
Yeah, I think
And
it's
is
around
5,000 enough money to print it in the book form and mail it to everybody?
Yeah, I don't think we really changed that line number very much over the time because we added in the postcards and
Yeah.
all of
So
that.
the answer is yes.
So I think
Right.
it's,
So what we're talking about is we're talking about saving some portion of $5,000 by
Yeah.
going through this exercise, right?
Right.
So the question then is, how much
I
of
see,
$5,000 are we
Right.
willing to save?
And
At the expense of putting this behind until we make a decision January 8th, or
Yeah.
make a decision right now.
Yeah, then maybe we'll just do it the same way we've always done it. Maybe that's,
the
the
new
most
thing that's happening
efficient.
this year is we're hiring out for someone to do it, where I've, it's been done in-house for the last.
I thought you were gonna do it again.
All right, Aaron, moving on.
I mean, if we wanna make a decision, somebody would make a motion. If
Right.
not, it sounds like we're asking.
I make a motion that we send out the town report the same way we did previously,
Yeah.
printed the same way,
Yeah.
sent to all the residents of the town.
For the budgeted amount, or are you gonna put a dollar amount on it or not?
I can't put a dollar in it.
I mean, it's already,
It's already
we're
in
in
there.
that, we're in this year.
Okay, so I'll second your motion.
We either overspend or we.
yeah, because we
spend
didn't.
something. We
Yeah.
didn't, yeah. We're already in that year. It was what was budgeted last year for
Oh,
that.
and it was
line
budgeted
item.
5,000 last year, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to look and see exactly what it, actually, I can look at that.
We've heard your very good argument, and so, I've heard
But we can
Andrea's
still,
too,
we
they make
could still
sense.
do this exercise to figure out this.
I would just like to do the exercise and figure
Yeah.
out what the costs are.
I agree.
It doesn't
And I
seem
agree.
like
Okay,
it's
so if
that
I have the
difficult.
information by the end of the week,
Yeah,
we can, I'll send it to Renee,
Okay.
and we might have to have a 5-minute special.
Special meeting.
Maybe, I'm not promising I can have the information by,
yeah.
well,
Oh, by Wednesday?
by Wednesday. But we could have an informal meeting, like, I don't know, next.
Right, I mean, Renee is authorized to spend a certain amount of money
Right,
anyway.
yeah.
So,
I just don't want this to be delayed in your,
Yeah.
in your.
And I'm,
report here.
I'm looking at it, what are we gonna save?
Exactly.
$1,000?
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be much more than that. 'Cause
But the bottom line is we've talked about this
I
ad
know.
nauseum for like 2 years.
Right.
So let's just at least get the information, make a decision, and run with it so we can
So
put
in,
this.
in
So it
other words,
sounds like
we
we have
might
a
have to have
good
a special meeting
Right.
to vote on this.
But do we?
Yeah, because,
It's a
yes.
Yes, because we've set up the conversation that way.
Well, actually, no, it's in this year's budget.
Yeah.
And so it could be up to Renee, and she will understand how we're all thinking. And we will give,
Perfect.
I will give
I
her
was
the
trying not to
information.
throw
I will
it
give
on
her.
her
I'm gonna disagree. I don't think
Yeah.
Renee should have to be
I
the one
agree.
who said she chose this
I
format.
agree. This is on
I
us,
think
not
we
on
should
Renee.
just go forward
Yes.
with it, and there's a
Somebody
motion
had
on
it
the
busy in
floor.
March.
And it's been seconded.
Yep, you seconded our?
I did.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's fine to get, maybe next year there are probably towns that are doing the little booklet forms and they probably look great.
Yeah.
And, they'll still be tossed in the recycling bin the same rate as,
I say
The
we still find out the numbers.
Yeah.
Still do the numbers. Let's make the decision, and then if we get some number that's so incredibly different, we can remake the decision, right? We can always
Always could.
change our minds. But this
Okay.
puts us on schedule.
not
Correct.
not for tonight's meeting, it doesn't, but it
No,
helps
no, no.
get us on schedule.
All right.
All right, so
so
there's a motion.
Yeah.
All
we-
those in favor,
we
say
have
aye.
4,000
Aye. Opposed?
No.
We have 3,800 budgeted in this year for the town report. Last year, looks like the actual is 3,125, but that doesn't reflect what the cost now will be to pay someone to do it.
Yeah.
But we know we know what we're paying to get it done now, this year?
Well, I mean, it depends on how.
But
How many
aren't we paying to somebody to put it together because it's not being done in-house?
Right.
So
Right.
that, of that 3,800, some of that is going
Some of
towards
that's
paying.
gonna go towards that.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah,
we
what
had
was
the
number?
ayes, we had the nays, and then any abstentions?
I'm abstaining because I don't want to make a decision until
Okay.
I know the cost.
Which is why I voted no to the
Yeah,
to
okay.
the motion, but whatever. Let's
Okay.
just be-
So the motion passed, but it does sound like we'll continue to get information.
Yeah.
And, not that I wouldn't be open to it, but I'm just thinking we've only got a short amount
Yeah,
of time.
and I would say the same. I'm very
And-
open to this information.
And I think we're in agreement that, we want to get something in everybody's house, that there's good reasons for that, at least for now. That seems like it's an appropriate thing. And I get to thinking, new people that come to town, never even been to a town meeting, they get this booklet, they're gonna say, look at this. Oh, wow, I didn't know there was a
Maybe that's what
conservation committee.
Right, the cover should say, "You're invited,
Right.
party, March 2nd."
This booklet
Hey, why
costs
not?
you
Let's see.
$3. You should read it.
Maybe we sell advertising in the book.
This booklet, your free pass to this.
RSVP.
This booklet, your free pass to this.
You know,
party.
and somebody
Yes.
sponsors it.
Yeah, that's not a
What if the
bad idea.
Heinsberg Business Association sponsored the printing of the book?
BYOB, bring your own book.
Maybe.
That doesn't solve the waste problem.
No.
But, no, that's.
But
not a
again,
bad
these are
idea.
ideas that we're kind
Yeah.
of having late in the process. So this is for next year, I think.
Okay.
I think it's important to make a
So
decision.
we'll move on.
Yeah.
Town administrator report.
Moving on. All right.
Have you made a decision about that?
Lots going on, a lot of it, I mean, trying to focus on budget things, but also all the regular things going on. The highway garage, they poured one of the walls today. And so tomorrow they'll be pouring more and then backfilling
There's
later in the week.
There's a there now.
What's that?
There's like something there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have our regular project meetings for the highway garage every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. So we get a chance to get updated and know where we're at and what's coming up.
It's tomorrow
You know,
morning.
and then,
Yeah.
tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. So that's moving forward well, going smoothly. Then we talked about doing an RFP for some sort of fast trash service.
Yeah.
So that's still,
It's kind of moving forward.
yeah, still in the works.
Yeah.
Coordinated with CSWD on that, and so they didn't have success with it when they did it, but it's worth a shot to try again to see if we can provide at least an option here in town.
Temporary option,
Yep, a
yeah.
temporary option in town during construction. I can't think
The
of.
search for assistant.
Yep. So we've had a first round of interviews, and then we are scheduling a second round, probably the first week in January. So, going
There's
well.
a number of candidates.
Yep.
There's,
Yep.
more
No,
than
we've had good selection in the first round. That was the hardest decision of where to narrow that down. A lot of good people. So so that's moving forward.
You probably saw our last town report and were impressed.
Yeah, that's what it was. Right.
So probably, maybe, potentially by the,
Just gonna keep poking. I apologize, Tom.
It's late, we gotta get out.
by the,
Getting later by the second.
Right.
by the second week of January, sometime, potentially you might be at a point to make a decision.
Yeah, and
which is good.
that's the hope.
And that second week is only 1 week from January 5th,
What's going on January
which,
5th?
which is the big fundraiser for
What
the
a
different
segue.
Nice lead in, Phil.
See, it's getting late
All
for
right.
him too.
And that's the concludes my town administrator report.
All right. Yes, the big party. Phil, I can tell, is geared up this
I
year.
am, I definitely am.
But we have a lot of, Tom Giro has done a wonderful job collecting auction items, getting the food lined up. I have a great Burton package, coat, pants,
Wow.
whole, you could go skiing tomorrow if you had bought that package, firewood, the whole works, so, yeah.
Go snowboarding.
You could go snowboarding with it, yes. You sure could. Yeah, that's it. Come on out. It's going to be a good time.
Who's playing again?
January 5th. Oh, yeah. Quadra with the Growlers.
Oh, the Growlers are gonna be there.
Growlers are back again. Oh, yeah.
And
they're all
tickets
set.
are online at the
They're online this
Hinesburg
year.
Rec.
Hinesburg Rec.
Yeah.
Yes, there's been some sales on Hinesburg Rec. A lot of people have called to reserve, too, so we're optimistic.
And what time is it from?
6:30 doors open.
6:30.
Don't show up early either.
You'll be turned away.
We're having a padlock this year.
Are you really?
So I'd like to.
Yeah. I know people like to get in.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 6:30 to like 11:30.
Great. Anything else for select board forum?
I had a question. Is there any update on the health order that you're aware of? Not that I'm expecting one.
Last that Kent went out and checked, there hasn't been any progress. So the deadline is coming up this week. So we'll have to, if still nothing has happened, then we move forward with the next steps.
I had one item that I had written down, but in our package, although it's not coming up, I'm getting an error, was just to talk about our meeting schedule in January.
That's what I was trying to
and
think.
our deadline, so I think we're talking about the 8th, and then 7 days after that would be the 15th. Those are for sure. I would expect there'd be the next one, which would be a chance to do the final warning.
So the 22nd
Oh,
potentially.
you've got it here, yep.
Or the 29th at the latest.
Yeah.
Has
So
to
the
be done.
warning has to be done, is it 30 days?
Yeah, so the 29th would be your last meeting, absolutely drop dead. It would be good, just for the benefit of Ann and doing the town report, to have it done by the 22nd.
Yes.
However, I looked at the school's schedule, it looks like they're not gonna be finalizing theirs until the 29th.
Okay. And town meeting is what day this,
So my battery on my laptop is
Ah.
set to expire at the time the meeting's supposed to expire, and I think it just expired.
Town meeting would be the 6th, right? March 6th.
is that right?
Is that,
Okay.
that's the first Tuesday in March?
So town meeting would actually be the 5th.
For the 5th, right.
Yeah,
And
so the
town
evening the
meeting
5th,
days.
and then the
Yeah.
voting is the
Yeah.
6th.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
Okay,
Yeah, town meeting's on Monday, the voting's on Tuesday.
right,
Yeah.
yep.
So
All
March
right.
5th.
so we'll at least plan the first two. I would probably, if you're marking your calendars at home, your TV schedule.
Yes, your Monday
Maybe
night
those-
entertainment.
Viewing on the
Those-
22nd will be the big news.
Yeah.
January 22nd, you'll know the final numbers.
Yes.
We'll be
Okay.
behind door number 3.
Yeah. All right, anything else for select board forum?
So on the 29th of January, are we holding that as a,
You
as
should definitely
holding the
hold,
date?
yes, definitely
But
hold the
there's nothing
29th.
scheduled,
It's a placeholder. I mean, we
Okay.
have that as a meeting
Okay.
date.
so I should just.
And
put
we
that
may
on.
want to use it as a meeting anyway,
Yeah.
just to be
I'll
thinking
just
of it.
put it on
So
my schedule.
definitely, yes, definitely keep that.
You will have missed each other.
Right.
We aren't going to see each other for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We could send some email or just note just to make sure we're okay.
There we go. It's on there.
All right.
You want to talk about your select board recap of things we want to really
Sure, 'cause
highlight?
I should mention, actually, I'm gonna be meeting with someone for the sidewalks on Friday.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
Okay.
Hopefully it works out. Sounds like he's gotta be up pretty darn early to get
Yeah.
them done by the time he needs to finish.
We have a
Yeah.
backup if that doesn't work
We do
out.
have a backup
Yep.
in case that doesn't work,
Yep.
but
Is his name Tom?
Nope.
I'm like
He's a backup of a backup of a
the
backup.
That's
Right.
good though, yeah.
I'm trying to bring up a quarterback that I would be in comparison to. But I think we'll get it worked out, and luckily there hasn't been a lot of snow yet.
Right. So we have not only the sidewalk maintainer, we have either someone lined up, and if we don't have, we have another person lined up. That other person is actually also going to do our sidewalks, around town hall.
Oh.
So
Shoveling, you're saying? Yeah.
Shoveling,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, it's hard to
Yep.
break
As
it
opposed to-
down.
Non-gas operated.
Yep.
Yes. So that they'll do the shoveling before town hall opens, and then during the day, if storms continue or happen, then we'd have the utilities facilities department be, doing that during the daytime hours. And the same thing with the sidewalk maintainer. We'd have that person, whoever we're hiring, to do the early morning hours, and then in the utilities facilities department, they can cover during the day as the storms. And then you can be the backup too of that. So we've got, making sure that all 3 of them in that department are trained to work on or to drive
Yeah.
that. So we have a lot of options and good coverage.
Sounds good. Considering it was nerve-wracking, we thought we had it lined up and it didn't work out.
Yeah, it's a difficult machine to run.
Yeah.
It really is when you
Yeah.
have, because there's some spots that are just not very wide.
Yeah.
And there's not, you've got literally an inch.
Yeah. And I know there's been a lot of concern of, how that changed from where we used to have water and wastewater and then buildings and facilities. As I've started going back through everything, it looks like the point of that was merging utilities and facilities. So it's not really utilities department, it's utilities and facilities. 30% of one of the salary lines of one of the staff in there goes into the buildings and facilities line item. So I'm trying to make sure we're getting that, using that 30%, the value of that 30% as well as possible
To help
during the
manage
day.
the
And then
oversight.
seeing what's left over to utilize for outside people that we can hire for temporary part-time
very good,
within the budget. Because I can see at this budget, we don't have the capacity to bring on another staff person. So
Yeah,
I'm
no.
trying to make the most of what we have
Okay.
in the existing budget without increasing
Yeah.
and seeing what we can do more efficiently.
Okay. Anything else, select board forum? So the next item is minutes from December 11th. They're in our package.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended for December 11th. Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah.
A second?
I can second that for you, Andrea.
Any comments? All right, hearing none.
Well, if they're gonna be amended, there should be a comment.
Well, I just made that in case somebody
Yeah.
had something.
Okay, so as written.
As amended, if needed.
If needed.
Okay.
We're just seeing if you're awake over there.
I don't know, I'll see if there's some misspelling or something.
Now she's really gonna try to find something.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
All those in favor of approving the minutes as written and not amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so the motion passed. We do not need to move to executive session, so motion to adjourn?
Do we have warrants?
Oh, sorry.
I also have a question, Phil. Are you gonna do any kind of a motion to accept the bid on the cruiser, or?
Yeah.
Probably should
Yeah.
I mean,
make that motion.
Good idea.
I don't have a name or anything at this point for the moment, so.
Well, why don't we'll make a motion, I'll make a motion to accept the qualified bid
Okay.
for the police cruiser that offered the $7,000, which was the minimum bid.
Yep.
That works.
Okay, is there a second?
Second it.
Mary Lee seconds. Any discussion?
Is that complete? Is that everything we need?
That was
Or
everything
That was required of the bid?
That was everything that was required.
So as far as you know, it's qualified and
Yeah.
That was kind of my
as long
point.
as it continues to
yeah.
be qualified
And the
unless something
payment
comes up.
is here
Yeah?
too.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. None opposed. That motion passed. Consider
warrants?
approving the warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants.
Second?
Any discussion?
They're here?
No, they're in the other room.
Gotta go
Okay,
to the other room.
Yeah, we'll get them.
You
We can
go.
get them, yeah.
all right.
Had you looked at them? Aaron, you looked at them?
I did.
Yeah, so I looked
We're
at
talking
'em.
about the ones from last
Yeah,
Thursday, correct?
yeah.
Yeah, yep, I did.
Yeah. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. No need to go into executive session. Now, a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll make
be
a
it.
motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor, say
22:01.
aye.
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 All right.
All right, good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
10 o'clock, 10:01.